Gorillaz is one of my favorite bands, what a surprise, I totally don't have the vibe. I found this band in 2017 with Humans, mostly due to their return making a fuss, and I remember I didn't like it very much. So then, how did I end up here today ranking their entire discography? Okay, minus remixes, I'm only counting the best versions of certain tracks, but I mean literally 218 of the maybe 240 tracks associated to Gorillaz. Clearly, something changed. The discography just gripped me the more I looked into it, the art surrounding it was incredibly unique, and most importantly, I found it hilarious when Murdoch smacked that kid. I hope that that's something I like to your experience. Since copyright won't let me play the songs without me yapping over top, I've made a playlist with the list which you can find in the description.
Feel free to follow along or use it for any reason. In fact, I'd recommend using it for a better experience.
So even if I'm not entirely sure how I got here, I did. And we certainly have a lot of music to go through, so it may be in my best interest to begin swiftly, worst to best, and talk about the relevant experiences on a per track basis. Does the light show up when I say hit the like button, or does YouTube not give me that privilege? So, according to me, because this entire list is subjective, what is the worst Gorillaz track? That is 215 Tormentanal. If there's a song that completely represents what Gorillaz isn't in the discography, it's Tormenta featuring Bad Bunny. It's a flat song with zero interesting elements, it doesn't play with its genre, it's riding entirely off the coattails of another popular artist, and most of all, goes against everything the band ever stood for. Wasn't the idea behind the band's creation to literally poke fun at how fake celebrities had become? This may be my opinion on Bad Bunny playing a part, but I genuinely feel like his popularity is completely unearned, almost fake in a way. His discography showcases very little talent or quality, whether it's his lyrics, his vocals, his instrumentals, even his live act is as lazy as they come, and sadly that's every famous reggaeton song released in the last few years. In fact, the song is so bland that I have to change it in the middle of the segment, because otherwise this segment for my discussion of this song starts to seem really long for no reason. And yet I had hope, nay, the chutzpah to get excited at the announcement of this track. I was genuinely looking forward to hearing a song with Bad Bunny that wasn't just a looping beat with no variety, sprinkled with some annoying synth someone conjured up in 10 minutes and then play some generic lyrics over that. Wait, no, hold on. I actually haven't paid that much attention to the lyrics. Let me look into those, because they're so mind-numbing that I haven't paid attention, but I can almost bet to you it's about a romance where it's someone trying to get someone else to stay in the relationship and also tries to rhyme the same word twice. I'm looking it up right now. And that's one hit and one miss. All things considered, he does not try to rhyme the same word twice, but his rhymes are about as easy as hey and they. And yes, the lyrics are about the thing I said. I don't know if the accent has tipped you off already, but I speak Spanish as my native tongue. I'm from Mexico, and I'm fucking pissed and tired of lyric work in Latin America being bland as fuck and as playful as a calculator, but that's besides the point. I genuinely expected Gorillaz to do something with this. I don't hate it when the featured artist gets the spotlight, I'm all for it, but when their talent is about as dull as a low battery flashlight, I do expect the collaborators to work together to hopefully make it attractive for someone who actually cares about the music they listen to. And Gorillaz is typically good at doing these things and genres that I don't often listen to, so I was expecting to hear something fresher, a bit more soul. Instead, the song just comes off as an aggressive representation of the modernization of Gorillaz' sound, to the point where it sounds like Gorillaz is supposed to be the feature. At least to me, its objective as a piece appears to be not to say anything or convey anything, it's just meant to be a song that can prettily sit in Spotify's popularity ranking. If that's your thing, go ahead. But this is my list, and I'm gonna be a spiteful prick about it, and I will say that if you like this song, you have bad music taste. And that's how I get rid of half of this video's potential audience. I will stop shooting myself in the foot when it comes to my content someday. 214, first idea. If this list was about how accurate the title is, I think this one would be near the top. It's quite literally Damon messing around with some weird noises to make a demo consisting of his first ideas for a song. The soundscape is not good, but at least it is musical like Tormenta. I can't really hold any of that against it though. This was released as a bonus track for self-titled's 20th anniversary, where 4 of the 5 inclusions are demos, which, if you're unfamiliar with the term, it's kinda like the first sketch of a song, usually done to just remember what has been composed or as a piece that you can send to the producer to start working on a more finalized sound. So it's not really a surprise to see that this is near the bottom, nor is it a surprise to see that it's pretty bad because the elements are all unfinished and don't quite work. 213, Seattle Jottle. That's right, I'm putting the fucking yodeling pickle over Bad Bunny, and yes, I do accept the applause. I'm not joking, this is just a recording of a novelty item, but it's better. I can at least say that I found it funny for a few seconds. 212, Monkey Travels. So around 2008, Damon composed a 22-track soundtrack for A Journey to the West Opera with visuals by Jamie. It's essentially a Gorillaz project, but due to the copyright shenanigans, it had to release attributed to the artist Monkey. The Monkey! But I'm putting it in this list because it's basically Gorillaz. This leads up to the worst song in it, Monkey Travels, which you're listening to in the background and should be basically nearing its end. It's just a short, dramatic trumpet meant to set the scene, nothing crazy. We'll get to the real gems in this soundtrack closer to the end of the video. 211, Gotta Get Down with the Passing of Time.
This is a Pace 2 demo that sounds mostly like a standard country song, but it's done with the guitar you may have recognized from 5/4. It's a pretty nice tune, but it's not very well mixed by virtue of being a demo. It was also supposed to feature Johnny Cash and was definitely fashioned after him, so I do think the song would be pretty great in its final form. But in its current form, it's just another demo from a very mediocre country artist or something. I assure you, I will best the allegation saying I hate country by the end of this video, trust. 210, Grilling with His Face. And this is how Human shows up for the first time here. It's a very varied album, and anyone who is familiar with it probably has a different opinion on which are its best and worst tracks. Unless you seriously don't like Sleeping Powder, in which case, you disappoint me. This is a pretty basic electronic loop, not really unique, and the lyrics are entirely composed of the phrase "grill with his face." There's really nothing that stands out about it beyond its existence. However, I must admit that I found it incredibly funny because whoever uploaded the video to YouTube timed pictures of Tootie and Russell to every vocal segment, and I just can't help but imagine this is them having an argument over that eel from the G-Shock shorts. It does not help that the album cover for Humans is extremely weird, so it just looks like a coffee conversation. Like, Murdoch was replaced by one of the Beatles, and Noodle didn't quite understand the instruction and looks absolutely pissed. Tootie forgot his glasses, and Russell wasn't quite ready for his photo to be taken, so I don't know, it's weird, and so is this song, but not in a good way. 209, Samba at 13. Here's a pretty fun but rather cliche samba track added as a Japanese exclusive bonus to these sites. I don't think it's a bad track, but it really doesn't say anything particular. If you didn't know it was a Gorillaz track, you wouldn't even think about it. I have doubts that I could actually remember this track after listening only to it for 2 days straight. It's 6 minutes of drums and I don't know, it kinda gets tiring for me. I'll stick with other songs where Damon managed to tap a lot better into the South American inspired music. 208. Film music trailer, not to be confused with the other film music. This is the other bonus D-side. While it does start pretty interesting with this weird salon piano solo, it eventually just devolves into video gamey sine waves just existing and getting faster. It's a loop, but I guess you could use it pretty well in a scene. 207, Into the Eastern Sea. At the matter of video gamey waves, this is just a video gamey build-up. It does have these bubbly sound effects that bring up the image of someone holding onto a whale as they enter the sea, so I appreciate it in its briefness. Does this sound something like Starjump from Celeste to anyone else? 206, Friday 13. So I actually reviewed Song Machine for this channel like 4 years ago, and of course my opinions have changed a lot, I've grown since then. Only 3 songs still remain in their original spots, and I definitely disagree with the opinions I voiced there regarding Momentary Bliss. Like, what did the song fucking do to me for me to hate it so much? It's at least an alright song. I also disagree with my opinions on this track, Friday 13. I know it's meant to be like a chill song, but I can't get over how repetitive the instrumental is and how the vocals are just dirty and unenergetic. And not quite in the way you'd say that, like, say, the vocals for Clint Eastwood's chorus are unenergetic. I mean that Octavian actually sounds like he woke up, smoked 2 packets of cigarettes and then sat in the studio to read the lyrics at a mildly rhythmical pace. I don't even like the 2D part once I get to it because I'm just so fatigued of the uninteresting soundscape by the time I reach it. Even as an emotional piece, it feels blunt, so yeah, don't like it. Please consider this an apology to Momentary Bliss. And also to all the people who watched that original video, compared to what I'm doing here today, that was massively ass. Probably gonna get less views, but who am I to judge? I'm not the YouTube algorithm. 205, We Have the Power. We have the power to put out the 10th worst song Gorillaz made. That's right, to close the top 10 worst, we got the power. I'm a genius of writing YouTube videos. I like this song during the build-up, but after it's just kinda disingenuous. Like they wanted to have a positive message, but it feels fake. As if communicating the feel of being united came above actually being united. And the song being so short with so little variety assists that feeling of fatigue. Again, like the people making it just said, okay, that's good enough, let's never love each other no matter what happens. However, if you like it, I don't blame you. It's a pretty good song beyond the way it comes off to me personally, so, you know. 204, Shagalaga. Another bass 1 demo. Once again, another case of a really good bass that would probably be great if it wasn't a bass. It's repetitive, which I clearly hate based on how much I've said it in just the start of this video. What I haven't said is that I like the sound of this song. It's fakely ethnic, to quote Alex Zeek. This is apparently a demo for Control App, but I don't really see the resemblance. Whoever said this, I literally can't find the source. 203, Disappearing Volcano. This is the Closer to the Monkey album, and I absolutely love the first 2 minutes. It's such a climatic and imposing piece which feels huge and scary, only to lead into a calmer sound that really liberates that oppression, like you've gone through a scary nightmare and then you woke up in the arms of a loved one, or in my case a plushie because of reasons. Shut up. Sad now. The other 4 minutes are just a sustained note for 2 minutes and a Chinese hymn with a chicken clucking really loudly over it, which always jumpscares me while I'm trying to get into that part. It's essentially 3 songs of varying quality, but sadly I think we've run out of songs that I'd outright consider terrible, so I can't see it in myself to put it any higher. 202, The Spigot Mountains. This song is a schizophrenia simulator, just a bunch of text-to-speech voices leading to a weird scene, and then a countdown begins, which makes this song feel almost meditative for a moment, until the end breaks all of that momentum with these ghostly distant screams telling the voices to shut the fuck up. Actually, maybe this is more like tinnitus, where you hear indistinct voices and you can focus on one, and even then it's still annoying as fuck, but they eventually shut up after a while. I realize this sentence sounds completely messed up to anyone who has never heard phantom voices from tinnitus. I've also heard people speculate about this song within the Gorillaz universe, the classical tale about Murdoch being abusive towards Tootie, but I don't see it that way. Many fans like those types of interpretations, but they've literally not happened a single time. More so since Plastic Beach, but more on this front later. What I'm saying is that I like how many interpretations you can have about this one song despite being among the most musically simple in Gorillaz' work. 201, The Joplin Spider. This is another track from the fall, and it's another bunch of sine waves that get annoying after a bit, but there's a pretty alright lyrical portion in the middle that breaks away from that sound. It's not Gorillaz' most innovative piece, but it's also not particularly offensive. I hate and love the weird left-right oscillation the song is doing. Like, it's pretty unique, but it's not very pleasant. It's just a fine track with many ups and many downs. 200. The Now Now is one of my favorite records by Gorillaz, except for this particular song. And not because it's bad or does any weird things, but just because it's a very unassuming track. It doesn't feel like a song I want to listen to very often, but it is very welcome on listens of the actual album, despite being its most underwhelming track. I really like the part towards the end, but it's too short-lived to make a real impact on my placing of it here. 199. Jungle Fresh. Like I Come Home is a full remix album of the self-titled, and thus I tried judging it first for its new elements, and second for the originals it remixes. The album is almost entirely dub and reggae music, so even within itself the ranking is a bit confusing, and given all the songs have the same vibe, I can find each of them enjoyable or not depending on the mood. I still try to be orderly about listing the elements I like in each, so the list is a little objective and it makes sense for the tunes of this record to weave around songs from other releases. Now then, Jungle Fresh is a remix of 192000 that I would enjoy for the first 2 minutes, and then the other 3 minutes and a half introduce almost no new elements. Kind of a shame since the Get the Cool Shoe Shine portion fits right at home with this kind of music. The new elements it does introduce feel very unfitting, separated from the actual track and trying to unsuccessfully play with its sound. That song would have benefited the most out of being shorter. 198. The Dragon King. This song is basically a march with the voice of the titular Dragon King giving his troops orders, and it does sound a little bit like the Imperial March from Star Wars, but includes a few of those synth elements that give life to this soundtrack. If it wasn't so stop and go to listen to due to its nature as a march, I could probably get more out of it, but as it stands, it's just fine. 197. Battle into Heaven. The start of the track is just plain annoying, and it brings it down a lot because the second half does transmit that ominous feel of battle.
Too bad that whole part doesn't get to shine either because some weirdly slowed down lyrics are droning it out.
196. Possession Island. When it comes to real songs from Cracker Island, this one is by far the worst, but at least it's a real song, and I can see how people would feel a real attachment to this song. I personally get the feeling that it's too blunt. It's a sad song with sad guitars and melancholic lyrics, with only a single line of those lyrics being anything engaging, though at least that is the chorus line. Similarly, the music does have that very nice piano portion, so it's not like the song doesn't have great elements, it's just that it doesn't do anything creative beyond having 2 separate catchy melodies. It's rather boring. The part I kinda do like a lot is the end, with the big trumpets, but it's far too short and the mixing just lets that trumpet overpower everything, making it about as blunt as the entire tone of the track. Hey, this song's a little samey. Oh, let me just put some trumpets on that shit to at least change one part of the baritone track.
Beyond that, the name doesn't fit, but that's not relevant to the ranking.
195. White Flag. Plastic Beach is one of my favorite parts of Gorillaz, from everything they did artistically with it to the actual music. Sadly, some of those tracks don't really work for me. Starting with White Flag, pretty bland stand and earth portions, and the hip hop in the middle is exceedingly one note. Even if other tracks further up click less in my mind, this one is just kinda grating to listen to and doesn't have any elements I can appreciate from a production standpoint. 194. The Snake in Dallas. This one has a similar problem to the last entry for me. Good elements, but they get grating to listen to. This one in general suffers particularly from having too many high-pitched instruments happening at the same time. My ears need a balanced meal, but like instead of being for the mouth, it's for the ears. It makes sense, trust me. 193. Hallelujah Money. I find this song hilarious because I like it different every day. Sometimes I am bedazzled by how low I place it in this list, and then the next day I think it's far too high and should be lower. Like, the instrumental is kinda grating, but then you also have Benjamin Clementine delivering his lyrics pretty perfectly, except those lyrics aren't very good. It's also a shame that the two don't work together for the majority of the song. And then the part where it would work, the lyrics are delivered in speech. In short, this song's a bit of a mess and I'm not sure what to make of it. Also, the music video just has SpongeBob in it for some reason. That is. 192. Out of the Eastern Sea. This is the other half of Into the Eastern Sea and continues some of those elements. It's kinda relaxing all things considered, but nothing I am holding my breath for.
get it? Cause water. 191. Tripitaka's Curse. This track is greatly composed of a spooky soundscape filled with interesting sounds, including what's basically the Half-Life hype suit recharge noise. I think it creates a great atmosphere, but it doesn't get very far as a song. 190. 1-2-D-3. We've got our first G-side, this being a variation of 5-4 but with an acoustic guitar and some rather basic lyrics by 2D. I like the constantness to this one, it's great for background noise, but when I actually focus on the track it's just kinda boring. I just wanna remind everyone here that at this point, a good song like this one being so loud is simply a testament of how good Gorillaz' work is, and not a way to say that these songs are bad and you shouldn't like them or anything. I know how comments can be, so I might as well say that. 189. Transformer. This song is actually pretty creative for me. It's trying to use one of those drum loops from those cheap toy keyboards you may give the kid who's interested in music, and then they layer that with some more refined instruments. I'd rank it higher if it went anywhere beyond what it does during the first 15 seconds or so. It's generally a very static track. 188. Circle of Friends. I'm kinda glad this track is short because musically it's not anything particularly crazy. It would be a bit boring if it was any longer, but it's just a perfect length. I like this track, it's very introspective, but I mostly like the way they start the song with all of these street noises fading out by the lyrics portion. It's great commentary on how people use the circle of friends to find comfort in what may be uncertain times. Though it's also a bit ominous because it feels narrow-minded, like they're ignoring the issue for the sake of the momentary peace. It's a strong song that sadly doesn't do anything musically interesting. 187. Colombians. So, if you're a Gorillaz fan, you're probably extremely confused. Like, you must be completely amazed at the fact that I placed this infamous track above 28 other tracks, considering it's just stupid. But that's what I like about it. This shit always makes me laugh every single time it plays. It's brown, as in bad in a good way. A genre that I never expected Gorillaz to touch with a 10-foot pole because it's honestly hit or miss. I must admit though, it being bad in a good way doesn't justify me putting it any higher. Like, it's still bad. I just love how bad it is and how consistently it cracks me up. The little pause at around the 2-minute mark always tricks me into thinking it's over, but oh no, it returns! It's such a shitpost, I love it. It reminds me of the music I would make when I was 12 and then I would show it to my parents thinking it was fire as fuck, and then they burned down the house with me inside it because they genuinely figured it was the height of my intellect and that I couldn't do better. Well, guess what, Dad? 186. Glitter Freeze is just not a song that works. Like, the first time you hear the synth you think to yourself, oh fuck yeah, and then it keeps going, and it gets louder, and it keeps going, and my head hurts from listening to it in the background, and then I respite. Small vocal sample. Is the song gonna get any better? Nope, back to swoop, and you go. Yes, I believe the dentist music allegations. I genuinely wonder if this maybe should be lower, because it never fails to actually make my head hurt, but it's pretty alright production-wise. 185. Sweepstakes. It runs into similar issues. I find it to be pretty unique in how it builds up from its simple elements into just a straight-up celebration, but I also notice problems in the song having too many elements.
It's a grower, both in its style and in the way you perceive it.
And I distinctly remember not liking it at all during my first listen, but I've grown to enjoy it as I familiarize myself with it. I tend to prefer songs that I enjoy since the first listen, so I couldn't put this very high. 184. Charger. This song is a catchy piece that I always feel like I take for granted, but then I actually listen to it and realize it's pretty one note. In another universe, it's one of the best songs from Humans, but in this one, it's a little bit of a skip. I wish Grace had a more prevalent role in it. 183. Mr. Softy's Balloon Race. This is the type of music that you'd hear in a FNAF minigame or something. Being a demo, I can't hear all the elements properly, but I quite like what I can actually hear from it. Using these retro beats and melodies intertwined with Damon's vocals coming across like a barbershop quartet, it would have been an insanely unique track. But what we do have is exceedingly peculiar, so I placed it here. 182. Halfway to the Halfway House. This is a very string of thought kind of song, and I sort of want to speak about what I like from it more, but it's just an acceptable track. Doesn't have any big sins or any big things that are creative. It's the most straightforward a song can be. When it comes to music you could actually play at a club, it's not bad, but in any other context this song has me feeling pretty stoic. It even manages to sound like a cheap version of Strobolite, which is literally in the same album. 181. Electric Shock. You know that one sample they use in Rhinestone Eyes? Well, they turned it into a full song. This is a B-side from Plastic Beach, but since Damon never released the B-sides album, this track is unreleased. I actually kinda like calling them the C-sides more because that one's funny. Come on, but I'll go with either. I dig the beginning, but then it just falls into a very uninteresting drum loop with some buzzing synths and the sample playing sometimes. It gets its strength back a bit towards the end with some trumpets that sound, dare I say, triumphant? And then the ending returns a bit of what I liked at the beginning, so it's alright, but consider me unshocked. On Electrocide. Special mention! Leviathan. Here's another Plastic Beach demo for which we have like maybe 50 seconds of. You'll notice I'm not ranking this one numerically because I'm actually ranking an interpretation of it by The Voyage, just for the sake of being complete. So it would be unfair for me to rank it as if it was yet another track. This jam section with the horrors is a noise track, meant to be loud and undefined, so it's not for everyone. Personally, I'm into it. It's a sound you wouldn't associate with Gorillaz immediately, and those are always the base songs for the band. Kind of a shame we never got a clearer mix of this, but we may get it in like 2030 when they release the 20th anniversary special edition of Plastic Beach. I wonder if there will be anyone watching this video by then. Special mention too! Talking about that, I might as well also include Big Fuck here, another unreleased Plastic Beach track which isn't very good and I understand why it's unreleased. 180. P45. Here's another version of 5/4 that shows how little the track works outside of its original form, because the best parts about this track are at the very end, and I could play that without you ever realizing that this was intended to be a remix of 5/4. It's just better without the 5/4 elements. 179. The White Skeleton Demon. This is a theme from one of my favorite Journey to the West antagonists, mostly because they always depict them as very conniving and shit. The song starts with a calm trumpet section that's pretty fun to listen to, and then it breaks completely to deliver some extremely threatening strings. It represents how this skeleton demon shapeshifts into innocent looking people, gets closer, and attempts to deceive its opponents into fighting each other. It's a well achieved track, but it's not something you'd hum around the house. 178. Intro. First track from Demon Days, and it's the sort of orchestral intro for the record. It is already coming in hot using the wackiest, most fun instruments it can, while setting the scene for the tracks that will come after. It lives and dies on that hill, however, being too short to get anywhere and too unimportant to try. 177. Murdoch is God. Here's basically an ego chant for Murdoch, so if he's your favorite, you'll probably enjoy this song more than I do. I feel like it's pretty uninteresting in terms of the soundscape, but there's literally no situation where the drop doesn't hit. The chord progression builds towards it just extremely well, and I would be a huge fan of this if the beat and guitar developed better throughout the track. 176. Mañana Baby, I love the name of this track. This is the Laika version of Tomorrow Comes Today, and it is extremely atmospheric. The heavy reverb and everything makes it seem distant and floaty, but its elements with presence still manage to be interesting to listen to. It keeps itself interesting for its 5-minute duration, but it's still a remix first, and I cannot help but compare it to its original, despite playing off it very well. In fact, I think that from this point onward, I managed to enjoy every song in different ways. Like, I feel like this track should be higher, but then I actually say what's higher, and it makes perfect sense. This is a very, very hard list to do. 175. The Tired Influencer. Hey, is this song about me? Because I literally feel too guilty about the bad performance of my content, which is my primary source of income, to even go to sleep in time. It feels like I haven't done enough every day, and that the blame for the failure is squarely on me. And this is not a healthy mindset to be having over practically minimum wage, but whatever. Wish I had more to say about this song than about its title, because it's pretty alright. A great track to listen to that creates a very nice atmosphere. I just wish it didn't use the same fucking lame percussion and drums that permeate Cracker Island. 174. 911. This is a pretty sick single from Phase 1, and it does feel pretty mediocre for Phase 1 standards to me, but in general, I can't blame it for not living up to Gorillaz' most iconic release. This rap is a bit generic, particularly in the flow department, which is rather unfun to me, but the beat is just amazingly cool. The chorus here is practically an anthem for unpopular Gorillaz tracks, and if you haven't listened to it, I hope you're following along with the playlist. 173. Phoner to Arizona. How little did this song manage to hold back some of the prior entries from going any higher. It's just a pop despite its simplicity. All the synths in it work very well, and to its benefit, it's literally all synths. Even the vocals sound like a synth, which is crazy to me. It does come across as lyrics. I love how mysterious this track sounds, but I wonder how intentional that was. Either way, I'm loving it, and this isn't even close to the top 100. 172.
I can't stop drinking crude oil.
I originally like this song less than I do upon analysis. I feel like its better elements are understated, and thus its face value quality is lower, if that makes any sense. Like, the lyrics are pretty unique, but they are not playing second fiddle to the generic beat and production of the track. And even then, the track is filled with little elements that I appreciate, from that drum roll over the 3-minute mark to the silent synth that gets hidden beyond the first minute. I wish it was more, but it ain't. 171. Dead Butterflies. This song feels like a song where each of its bars are cooler than the sum of them. Like the To The portion, the Kano portion, and the Roxanne portion are great on their own, but they don't really go together. I feel like there's a clear separation. Kano's verse is really effective. His rhyming scheme here is immaculate and overshadows Roxanne's work. She also gets very little time in this track for starters, which is a shame. Just when I start getting into her stuff, it ends. I'm also deducting a few points over the instrumental being unburied once again. 170. Crocodiles. I originally like this song more than I do upon analysis, and I say this as someone who thinks that most of Cracker Island is mid. As always, De La Soul is doing a great job. He always has fun lyrics that are a pleasure to learn and listen to. Sadly, Down sounds like their vocals were mixed into the wrong song for much of the beat. Talking about that beat. It's great, but also pretty unburied. I still think it succeeds at being a good track, in part because the few elements it has are all awesome despite the aforementioned production problems, but also because it's just fun, and I will never say no to fun music. I also feel like the beat would fit perfectly into a Nintendo eShop, but I'll probably just strip it. undone shoelaces.
Number 169, Fistful of Peanuts. This is the Laika version of Clint Eastwood. I like it, good elements, good mixing, good atmosphere, still a remix, I also like the name. 168, Come Again. This is the Laika version of Rehash. I like it, good elements, good mixing, good atmosphere, still a remix. I like this part where he says, drugs, I don't wanna stop. 167, Crooked Dog. This is the Laika version of Gravity. I like it, good elements, good mixing, good atmosphere, still a remix, but Gravity slaps. The bass in this track is insane. So yeah, I grouped these 3 tracks from Laika together since they are all pretty good takes on remix versions of the self-titled tracks. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses, but I feel like all of those adds up to about the same amount of quality. I still order them by my preference, but I decided to group them together since they weren't better than my next entry, number 166, Meanwhile. The Meanwhile EP is one of the weirder Gorillaz releases, being their second EP that's not supposedly B-sides. This track has a really awesome beat that works really well with 2D's vocals, while the rest of the vocals are just fine. It's a great piece, but the rap is severely overshadowed by how well every other element works. Not helped by the fact that the rap is mostly repeated bars. 165, Baby Queen. Have you all heard the song Baby Bitch by Ween? It's unrelated beyond the name, I just wanted to shout out my favorite band. Another song kinda like Oil, with good understated elements under the bluntness of Rocker Island's production. I still don't know how almost every song in the album has the same terrible production on the same elements. This track does get a bit ahead from the others over the little chorus and vaporwave synth in the background, which are notable enough to affect my opinion on the track positively.
Special mention! Silent Running piano version. It's the piano version of Silent Running. I quite like it, but I don't feel it has any particular merit to put it any higher. You can even hear the feature better than in the original, but the original is just better in every other way. Oh, and let's just say it's not numbered because I'm inconsistent about my double standards. 164, Iron Rod. The soundtrack's first inkling at some absolutely beautiful tracks we'll listen to down the line. This one kinda suffers from the monkey noises pepper throughout, which distract a lot, but that string section is so nice it makes up for it. 163, Omi Tofu. This track slaps, but it's 1 minute long. I often think stuff is too long, but this is the opposite. I really enjoy this little electric beat that makes this track, but it's not long enough to develop anywhere. 162, Debunked. Imagine you think that this is like a remix of Punk from the original. That's such a random thing to think. I don't see why you could think such a silly thing. I'm getting to the tracks in Laika that are expertly mixed. This one has a nice bass to listen to, particularly when you are in 6,000 words into a script trying to focus on writing for many hours. I also like the progression during the first half. Sadly, as many songs from this album, it suffers from being too long. I feel tired after listening to it for only a bit. 161, Whisper. This song is somewhat between being creepy and being soothing. Like, you can perceive the whispers, which I'm pretty sure are real, as either something ASMR or off-putting. It's neat. The concept doesn't overshadow the production, which is very much using all the elements this soundtrack has used before in creative ways, and I like that it manages to tiptoe the creepy and soothing line. 160, Controlar. Oh hey, it's that problem with the production I mentioned again! Also, the people who say Shagalaga is a demo for this have caused anger in me, like permanent anger. I can't get it off. Once again though, those understated parts such as the weird flute do wonders for this track. I kinda feel bad for Portuguese Gorillaz fans because this is what they get when the Spanish and French crowds got songs that are ranked on the top 50. Even the Xhosa speakers got it better. Ouch. Points given though, those 3 tracks don't have which some have called monkey or caveman noises, but I call it personality. 159. Monk's Song. This song is practically just a Chinese guitar song and it doesn't do anything too special, but I can't help but enjoy it when it comes on. The vocal performance is also amazing. 158. Phoenix on a Hill. Quick reminder that the featured artist is not called Skibidi. I know the internet has taught you to dismiss similar looking words in general, and I'm sorry to all the Sadikis out there. This song is pretty repetitive, but it kinda makes up for it by being one of a kind in the Gorillaz discography, due to just being sung entirely in Bambara, which is unrelated to any Barbara such as Streisand, and is also a language. In an introspective piece with some pretty catchy elements, it's definitely not something you hear every day, but it's also not special beyond the language qualities. 157. March of the Volunteers. This song sounds like it's dissing me and I don't know why. I once again like all of the symbology, with its different elements playing this concurrently and eventually they end up playing together into a hopeful rhythm. It also parallels the other march theme we've talked about, where the ominous trumpets would lead, whereas here the melodies lead, almost representing the freer feel of this volunteer army, but also its tiny size. Makes you wonder what each of the sides is fighting for. There's still another march here, so hold your horses.
Or don't, but do if you actually have one. 156, Monkey's World. One of the most unique tracks in the Journey to the West album. It uses a lot of really creative sounds and has a feeling of momentum to it. Like, the percussion and bass are all stopping and going, making it feel like the music wants to push the space it's in forward. It could also make for a sick beat if anyone wants to rap over it. 155, Gore Beaten. This Space One demo from the Kong side is horribly compressed to fit into the classic 2005 Flash game. But looking beyond its limitations, the song is actually kinda dope.
It's a unique beat that even dares to use elements such as backwards melodies and whatnot. I find myself getting into the basslines group every time, and the little break towards the end is a really good rest from the synths, which keeps them from getting boring. 154, Mix 2! Stopping on them. And here's the Phase 2 demo from the Gong side.
Also horribly compressed.
The lyrics make no sense since it's clearly a demo and Toody's just making it up as he goes, but the lyrics are also very unusual for 2D standards. It's like Phase 1 2D singing Phase 2 lyrics, and then he turns into a chicken and goes baka baka for a third of the lyrics. Still find the chorus and elements to be extremely catchy for a demo, and would love to hear an uncompressed version. 153, Deja Vu. I'm starting to feel criminal over these placings. Like, this song is far too good for 153rd place, but the songs above it are just better. It's messed up. How can they have such a good discography? This is an extremely upbeat reggae beachy track that always is fun as fuck. The elements alone don't do much, but together, they just work really well. This is Samba 13 if it was actually an enjoyable song for me. 152, Frequency No Dormir. This extremely rare release by Gorillaz known as the Solar Collaboration is kinda bonkers. Like, it's not popular at all, and it only had 150 presses, being basically a sponsorship by a company named Eon, who is a power grid manufacturer. It's weird and unusual,
but that does make its 3 tracks feel special. It's actually kind of 4 tracks. That song is a part of the record, but they did make the music video for We Got the Power. Note, I'm not talking about the one with Murdoch circling the block about 500 times like a maniac. I'm talking about this one. Yeah.
How the fuck is this the coolest Murdoch has looked since 2000? Anyways, Frequency is a great song. Catchy, if a little generic. I kinda enjoy the sound it's working with, and the lyrics in Spanish are probably the most normal Gorillaz has worked with. It has a subtly melancholic yet energetic vibe that's unique to it. 151, The Left Hand Suzuki Method. This method basically describes getting fucked up on weed and listening to a song so much that you learned how to play it. And the song here is a bunch of samples that oddly fit together, though barely. You get these weird bass hits, and then this random wind section that's practically recorded differently from everything else, so much so you can actually hear the static in the samples recording. Look, it may not be the best, most catchy theme, but the creativity on display is insane. 150, Tarantula.
It sure would suck if this track was a bunch of great ideas drowned out on the worst production Gorillaz has ever seen.
Whoops! It was! Like, seriously, the background here is a really amazing bunch of sounds, from keys to guitars to synths, and I wish I could listen to them, but instead I gotta listen to the shitty reverb fuck percussion and bass. It pisses me off, because all of those elements would be so fucking good if the mixing wasn't an absolute disaster. At least we're done with the songs that don't work with this production, because the 5 remaining tracks from this record managed to feel a lot better because the production does work nicely on those 5, or it doesn't do it, but we'll get there. 149, Hip Albatross.
This is a very weird song. The percussion is train noises, the lyrics are very subtle and understated, and it goes for an ambiental feel that one could describe as hip. Yeah, that joke's a bit of a bogey, isn't it?
But I quite like the ambience. It uses elements from Gravity, but is distinct enough to do its own thing, and it's a worthwhile listen. Just a soothing track made with a particular soundscape in mind, but not very polished. 148, Simplicity. You know when the title of the song perfectly describes what it is? Everything about this song is perfectly simple, from the tone choices to the delivery of the vocals. It's a 5. 147, MLS. I admit, the JPEG Mafia verse isn't my favorite, but everything else is just kinda banger. The beat is peculiar and the chime parts are awesome, being catchy and playing off the instruments perfectly, with both of the elements having space to breathe. They also took the compression to 100 near the end, making a pretty unique ending for this pretty unique song. 146, Confessions of a Pig. This song is a simple string progressing as you hear the pig character from the story speak with regret. What about? I don't know, I'm not good at Chinese, I just learned about Chinese culture. The exact amount needed to avoid execution when China somehow takes over the world, which is really an excuse for explaining why I watch Chinese media because people refuse to believe me when I tell them it's good. This song is satisfying to listen to, I guess. 145, Lil Tough Chaffin. This is the Leica version of M1A1, and I genuinely feel like the songs from this record above this are all really good. This one boasts great percussion, trumpets, and atmosphere. The way it works with the la 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 hey from the original and recontextualizes it is genius. But not the song Genius, that one comes later. 144, Monkey Racket. This is the Leica version of a man researching how to shut me the fuck up. It will never happen, don't even try it. Once again, playing well on the elements from the original, but doing something different. In this case, this song has barely any reggae inspiration, focusing on a more techno-trance direction. Even within the album, it's a great break from all the reggaes. Not even to mention the fact that this one keeps reinventing its noise throughout its duration. It literally doesn't get boring. 143, March of the Iron Army. If the other tracks were an army fighting for nothing, and a small army coming together to fight for something, this song is
A huge army that has come together to fight for something. The leading melody isn't ominous or silly, but rather a focused anthem sung by 1,000 people. And this one even goes as far as to showcase its defined beat like something you would expect from a normal song that's not part of a soundtrack. It's awesome how Damon managed to convey the feel of each of the armies depicted in this opera through the sound alone. And yes, you might unhold your horses now. 142, Strictly Rub-a-Dub. This is the like a version. You know what? I'm changing the phrasing. Effective immediately. This Jamaican slow county. And for the first time in my ranking, a song from Laika actually has original pieces made for it. In this case, Jamaican singing, which I cannot unhear as Scatman John. It's pretty samey in general, but at least has unique elements. 141, Sex Murder Party. I really hope the title of this song didn't demonetize me because I really need those $5 I'll earn from this. This song is deceivingly simple, a standard beat, repeated lyrics, and a relatively commercial sound for Gorillaz standards. I always found weird how people reacted to Humans horribly for sounding commercial, and still call it a terrible album to this day, but were completely okay with making music from Cracker Island, some of Gorillaz' most popular tracks. And I think this song is a perfect example of how that sound was never really bad, just overdone, particularly on a song with such inflammatory title and lyric. I don't want to give the impression that I dislike the new and popular stuff because it's new and popular. It's not like the mixing in this track is as bland as the backing for much of Rocker Island, and I want to make it clear that what I dislike about those tracks is the lack of direction rather than their actual style, I guess. TLDR, I'll have sex with Demon Days, Murder Cracker Island, and Party to Humans. 140, Don't Get Lost in Heaven. Demo. This isn't just a demo for Don't Get Lost in Heaven, it's the remastered demo included in these sides, using very archaic synths and acoustic guitars and bass. It's a little more catchy than the final version, but it doesn't show us much of that feeling. Instead, it lets you appreciate the elements from this track that the final version uses atmospherically. It's not better, but it's still a fucking good version. 139, Pixie in Space. This is a dreamy tune filled with harps and reverb, and it always causes chills in me even from a production and mixing perspective. The song isn't anything special, it's a song that manages to be simply beautiful, and that simplicity is part of the reason it doesn't place any higher. 138. People. People. Everybody people. That if it had no personality and was more repetitive. Still a banger despite that. 137. The Swagga. And yes, this must be another song based off the Shagga Wagga demo. Trust me, I put it in the wiki and nobody asked for a source, so it must be true. This song is greatly composed of a drunk sounding 2D singing this cool build-up. Sadly, the payoff isn't anything particularly crazy, but still great. It also is the closest Gorillaz has ever gotten to indie rock, though I guess maybe my enjoyment is not that related to the fact that I really enjoy indie rock, since I hate indie rock if it's not well produced. Anyways, this has no guitars, just a cheap toony electric track, which makes it different from indie rock. 136. Moments. This song is genuinely very fun. The powerful beat having such a presence and the compression around the other elements makes it feel like the beat is just that strong. It goes a long way. Though I feel like this song is a bit uncreative at times. The sheer fun factor makes up for it, particularly the way that moments are used to interject in the rest of the song. I just wish the ending part was a little bit longer. 135. Bill Murray. This side, and what a weird one this is. Once again, we get Barbershop Quartet 2D, but also this weirdly consistent bass beat. Not many thoughts about this one, to be honest. 134. Strobe Light. Holy shit, dude, being happy in a Phase 4 video! What's the word come to? Russell doesn't even get a 3D model in this face, that's just mean! It's not a very innovative track, but I always have fun listening to it. Peyton Everett does an awesome job with the vocals, and I always find myself singing and dancing along. I originally had it placed higher because it's very fun, but I don't think it's actually that deep. 133. How Far? This song featuring Tony Allen and Skepta may not be the best song ever, but it clearly means a lot to the fans of Tony Allen as it was released officially shortly after his death. I have pretty standard enjoyment of this song. I think I appreciate its intricacies more than I actually enjoy them, but I still think it's a great piece. More so want to pay tribute to a long-standing collaborator with Damon. 132. Amarillo. I think it's technically Amarillo, but I'm gonna say Amarillo because it sounds like they intended for it to be called Amarillo and not Amarillo. This song is peculiar. It feels very distant yet warm and uses these limited synths of an iPad to make a track that may not be too impressive. It's kind of unpolished, probably due to the nature of its production, but I still find it to be beautiful, intricate, and layered. 131. The Apprentice. I know there's a pretty different demo for this song out there, but I decided not to feature it here. I like what it's doing, even if it's not actually doing much. The lyrical verses are all great, I just wish the soundscape was more alive. 130. Momentary Bliss. Consider this my formal apology towards this track. Putting it in last place in that old video was probably done out of spite or something, and I hate that I did that. While I don't see this song as big Gorillaz like a lot of people do even now, I have grown to appreciate its overbearing positive message, and just how much this song jumps around keeps the listening experience great. It shows that everyone had fun making it, and the result is unique. Clap, 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 which I'm saying and not doing because that would be annoying, and also because I'm holding the microphone in one hand, and like this is what you'd hear. Is this what you want? 129. Valley of the Pagans. I have no fucking idea what this song is about. Like, is it about ego, death, getting old, or just drugs? Maybe it's about all three? Either way, I think the lyrics are really cool with words such as Shandenfrud, whatever that means. Musically, I think it does its job, but it isn't anything that scratches anything. It's a song reminiscent of its music video, where it used to be really cool, but now it's just all cheap and not as cool as you remembered. 128. Dracula. Who's ready for 2 remixes of Starshine in a row? This one is nice in the sense that it grabs the bassline, kicks it up a bit, and adds its own lyrics, but I can't help but feel like it's the worst version of it. It does have moments of brilliant, but not compared to the original. 127. Dub 09. This is Jamaican Starshine? It doesn't feel like that description works here. We're reverting the change, effective immediately. The Like a Come Home version of Starshine has all of these whooped synths that work exceptionally well. The bass is spectacular, and the beat around the 90-second mark always impresses me. Later, there's more awesome elements like a new melody near the middle and just the most spectacular portion of music in this record near the end through some exceptionally well-positioned keys that contrast with the rest of the soundscape. And they even have details like cowbells in the percussion that just keep everything engaging to listen to. 126. Cell. Would you believe me that Gorillaz has made K-pop? Because this is actually just K-pop. But except I'm talking more about tone than language. This song is in Hungarian, and it's surprisingly fantastic considering how unpopular this is. The main melody of this wavish tune is composed of a nice whistle, the lyrics are all in several different deliveries within the same song, and the drop has a lot of elements playing around each other in a unique structure. You should listen to this if you haven't. 125. I Love Buddha, that's the name of the song, not a religious statement. Here's a religious statement.
If you wish to pay tribute to me, the deity, please proceed with providing me with key lime pie. Thank you.
The instrumental of this piece is once again beautiful but slightly unpolished. The constant beating of waltz and general whimsy of the piece doesn't communicate any love for Buddha, but holy shit is it fun to listen to. 124. Duets. 808s and 2D with... Is that autotune? Yeah, who'd fucking believe it? But Damon's voice with the stylized autotune works. And then that cute little melody pushes the song forward into a strangely emotional and nostalgic song. I feel like it's using a handful of early 2000 synths and sounds on purpose, and the result is just fantastic. 123. Film music, not to be confused with the earlier film music trailer. This is an actual song with a bunch of elements, and it sounds like something you'd hear in Terraria. This whole thing is just addictive to listen to, and it manages to sound grounded, alien, western, playful, all at the same time. One of the most fun Gorillaz tracks that's not associated directly with any release. Special mention! Heartbeat. So there's actually a few now demos that you can hear in the background of the Reject Files Icons documentary, and I found this one to be the most interesting to discuss them. As you can see, I'm not ranking them since they barely qualify as songs that exist, and what you're hearing right now in the background is WTO's interpretation of the piece. I enjoy how they use the beat to mimic a heartbeat, and it's a really good recreation. If you didn't tell me, I'd easily believe this is just part of the album. In fact, if this replaced Idaho, I'd straight up say They Now Know is my favorite record by the band. Just a fun thing to talk about, not really anything to put on the list. 122. Sandy the River Demon. A simple song built of sitar riffs. Most of the song is just a sorrowful track, where you can hear the sorrow of the lyricist. But the song has 30 amazing seconds at the end, delivered through a single wind section, and just that little portion is incredibly emotional. This is a heavenly creature who was turned into a man-eating orc who receives 7 sword stabs to the torso every day. You'd have to be silly not to regret whatever action led you to that. 121. She's My Color. This song is iconic and I don't really care what you say, just the start of it alone is instantly recognizable to me. Toody's lyrics work extremely well, Kelly follows suit, and the understated spacey synths in the background work perfectly to communicate the feeling of this song. Honestly, I might be underappreciating this song because it does what it does extremely well, but I wish it had more uniqueness and quality to it, I suppose. 120. Ghost Train! A spooky track befitting of Phase 1, and apparently one of the first songs made for Gorillaz, as you can tell by the overuse of supernatural themes. There's a bouncy beat that carries the song perfectly, and thus it never gets old, but then you get this really awesome portion down the middle with Toody shouting his lines energetically, and to top it all off, there's also a guitar solo near the end that adds to the energy of this portion tenfold. If that isn't a recipe for fun, I don't know what is. 119. Chalk Tablet Towers. This song is here because of the no other reason. Well, also the fact that it's a great track even if the lyrics are a bit blatant, but I think its position on the list reflects that pretty well. Special mention! Whirlwind. I forgot to rank this one, but it landed here. It's just not numbered because I'm too lazy to rename all the 100 entries of the script so far. Cry about it. It's an orchestral piece for Plastic Beach that went unreleased, and likely the most underwhelming of the 3 orchestral themes currently public for Plastic Beach. It sounds deserty more than beachy, likely a result from this being a collaboration with the Lebanese National Orchestra. Doesn't hurt it in the slightest though, it's just not as instantly iconic as the other two. 118. Don Quixote's Christmas Bonanza. This song is actually about Halloween, and the title lies harder than insert favorite Minecraft YouTuber who mysteriously rose to fame in a matter of months. And has an absolutely fantastic soundscape, with the instruments including the sounds of cracking bones, and the lyrics are just the phrase "Happy Radio" on loop. It's a surreal experience of a song. This is just someone who loves mixing weird shit together into something that sounds great, and I'm all for that. 117. Clint Eastwood by Phi Life. This is just Clint Eastwood with a new lyric and slight modifications to the track, like having an ode to the chorus, a new instrumental solo around the middle, and a guitar at the end. It's just an underwhelming version of the final track. I'd even dare say a better version in specific parts. Like, I kinda dig this rap a bit more than Dell's, not that Dell's isn't 10 times more iconic. It's simply that the loss of 2D's part is immediately noticeable and just makes the actual problems with Clint Eastwood more obvious. But more on that in a bit. 116, Highway, Under Construction. It's a nice chill song that reminds me of duets, but it's closer to country than pop. The instrumental is very windy and soothing, with 2D's lyrics fitting perfectly despite being rather unmastered, and the end has a brief piano solo that can smite me because I am a sucker for piano solos. I do get a wee bit tired of this song after a while because the bass is just present all the time and doesn't remotely let up. Anyways, it's time for me to be controversial in a way that surprises even me. 115, Clint Eastwood. The return of Self-Titled has some bad news for those invested in my opinions for some reason. And even I fought against this conclusion for most of my making of this list. I mean, it's Clint Eastwood, one of the most popular songs ever released by Gorillaz. It's unique, it's creative, it's iconic, and it's also repetitive, drags out, continues far longer than it should at the end by about 1.5 minutes. I just keep finding issues with this idiot. Dell's vocals are mixed oddly, sounding almost distant, as if he wasn't talking to the microphone at all, and maybe that's to achieve that ghostly effect, which does include that one thing that kept me wishing to put this song higher, and that's the fucking version of the song from the music video, which is a blatant step up from any official release that you get on streaming sites. It's shorter, it includes a more interesting intro, Dell sounds echoey but still present, and most importantly, when Dell goes, that line can only be heard on a stereo sound system due to how it's mixed. Doing that effect for specifically that line is genius. And I hate that the version of the track I usually listen to isn't nearly as good. Despite how subjectively iconic it is, I can get past my objective issues with it. So the result is me putting it under many songs that I can't help but think are better. Like, I feel dirty putting this here, but it's the truth. And I am so damned in the comments, aren't I? And then I wrote a sad face in the script. I don't know why I wrote a sad face in the script, and then I wrote that I was gonna do this joke on the script, so I'm really funny if you think about it. 114, 68 State. This song is mostly a simple loop, some bassy backing, a futuristic sounding beat, a guitars wailing melodically even if they aren't exactly cleaned up to arrange the music perfectly. It gets stuck on my head every single time, and I find myself returning to it a lot more than what its placement under the top 100 would signify. I think it's just because I personally enjoy the track though. Not a fan of the double looping. 113, Last Living Souls. Oh shit, it's Demon Days, run! I'm playing, but we have finally reached the worst track in Demon Days beyond its intro. Would be lower if it wasn't for the absolutely awesome part at the end. It's a song that repeats itself a lot, but that doesn't stop those parts from being expertly made from any perspective you wish to look at it. This is just the most underwhelming piece on a series of borderline perfect tracks and masterpieces. Still at 113 because this band goes too hard. 112, 3 Hearts, 7 Seas, 12 Moons. This is the second in 3 orchestral tracks in Plastic Beach. This one actually having elements that stick out in your mind, making this song recognizable. I like the versatility of this one. It sounds sleazy, but also casual, but also kind of imposing. It's a great piece. 111, Jimmy Jimmy. The last and best song from the Meanwhile EP. It reminds me a little bit of The Whole World by Outkast, if you even know what that song is, but it's extremely similar in several moments. This is the most cohesive song in the EP, starting by just how catchy the hook in the Jimmy Jimmy is. But even just the instrumental using those low guitars and a whole bunch of elements to keep itself fresh, plus the addition of several styles of singing that function correctly with the rest of the track, make it an evident standout. Do any Jimmys in my audience feel called out by this song, by the way? Like, they don't make songs called Nate Nate, so I wouldn't know. Unless... No. 110, Mutant Genius. The last and best song from Laika, also the Laika version of Genius. I feel like this song just beats the rest of the record way beyond the water. With its usage of 2D's vocals being exceedingly fitting, the crisp ass bass, and all of those different sounds it uses to create its own identity from New Genius. Of all the reggae offerings in Laika Come Home, this one is undoubtedly the best one. So say goodbye to this album screen cause it's going away forever now, I guess. 109, Interlude New World. Look, I know this is the only interlude on the list. I skipped a few. But I feel like those others are too short to even count for this list. Those others are just like details, little pieces to complete the puzzle. But this one is straight up a full song. All the others are mostly vocal samples. Beyond that, I like this interlude. Despite its briefness, it's a pretty awesome sounding build-up with multiple layers. 108, Hillbilly Man. This song starts being pretty acoustic and tranquil, then transitions to a nice beat that displays a lot of personality. I like the way the vocals work on each of the halves of this song. They always let the background music have enough time regardless of the background sound, which makes the two very distinct directions feel like part of the same song. Yes, that is the Donkomatic synth. 107, Gorillaz Routine by Kid Koala. Okay, so this is cheating cause it's technically not a song by Gorillaz, but rather by Kid Koala, but it is remixing unreleased Gorillaz material and well, Kid Koala basically produced the self-titled album with Damon and Dan the Automatron, who just so happens to also be involved with this song somehow. So yeah, I think it counts. This song is very down low, focusing a lot on a single synth sound, having creatively sampled strings, mixing 2D's vocals around, as well as having a scratching section that I can hear is pretty good according to DJ Peebles I know. It's a track that has a very melancholic and hopeful vibe, which makes it strangely beautiful. I still deducting some points due to the internet having multiple mixes of this track due to its rarity, and I don't know which one's the best, so I just picked the worst. 106. With Love to an Ex. The aforementioned song in Shosa. I remember when this song leaked before the release of the lyric video and half of the community was trying to guess desperately what the lyrics were, but in English. Fun times, and kind of illegal. This song has a very peculiar sound and feel. The beat is very heavy and dark sounding, and it contrasts heavily with the occasional bells and lyrics, which I like myself, but I understand if it's not everyone's cup of tea. Now if you excuse me, Sanili's chorus is just fun to listen to and sing. Even if the actual lyrics mean stuff that's relatively superficial, I appreciate the usage of words like DM. 105. Midnight Float. This song reminds me of the parade theme from Paprika. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe I just want you to look up cool songs I like so you can like them too, but I digress. We're talking about this song. A super deluxe song from Humans that intertwines a very soothing personal sound with very energetic sing solos. I like that the high-pitched synth is super subtle, being the main element, but also not being the forefront of the piece. Add to that, it does transition in and out of the floaty and tender party in a way that elevates both parts to my ears. Why is he swimming in Hot Depot? 104. Out of Body. This song is weird as heck, even for Gorillaz standards. It feels like it doesn't know what it wants to do, but it's about to do it relatively well. The song progresses and gets louder as it goes on, and the inclusion of clap and cheer samples make the song feel like you're physically outside of a club, which, while annoying to some, is also basically unheard of. It's also true that all of the performances here are great, so even if it doesn't come together too well, its segments all have something cool to deliver. 103. Welcome to the world of Plastic Beach. The Return of the King. Mostly because I categorized that unreleased track as bonus rather than Plastic Beach, but still, feels good to hear this album again, right? Snoop Dogg's feature here is awesome. Bro hasn't done a particularly good job since he released Doggy Style, but he's actually pretty good here, and that may just be the worst part of this song. This whole instrumentation hints towards multiple songs in the album, particularly Rhinestone Eyes, which improves both songs in my perspective. This one sounds introductory and the other one sounds kinda climactic as a result. 102. Starshine. Starshine isn't for everyone. Its mellow and deliberate style can be a bit grating if you're unable to get into it. But the good part is that I can get into it, and my opinion is cooler than the average person's opinion, by a slight amount. Still among the worst of this album, even if I had to admit that I like Clint Eastwood less. That song is at least iconic enough to not get last place in most people's personal ranking. This one doesn't have that luxury and so looks very weak in a record filled with behemoths of music. As for me, I wish it would drag on slightly less and that I could properly hear the song in my right ear. I don't know who compelled them to do this like this, but yeah, you can only hear this song in one ear. 101. Don't Get Lost in Heaven. Opposite to the Plastic Beach track we just discussed a bit earlier, this one is a great song to have near the end of Demon Days. It does work better if listened together with Demon Days, the track, but we're not here to do that, so the result is a song that barely misses out of the top 100. I still love all of its elements. The jumpy lyrics and the choir elevate the simple piano, and the support guitars and whatnot make this song an experience. 100. Crashing Down. The best way to start a top 100, featuring one of the unreleased tracks. Nice. There's an unreleased song from Phase 3, existing primarily as a demo. It's very silent and somber, but the entire composition conveys emotions really strongly. It also uses a lot of Arabic sounding melodies. It's neat. I wish this powerful song could have had a full proper release, but this is what we get. Okay, that leaves us at 2 unreleased songs in the entire top 100, so great. 99. Long Beach. This is from Humans, not from Plastic Beach. There's a cosmic characterization to this song that always transports me to another world, and it definitely was supposed to have vocals at some point. I wonder if those vocals would have made it better or worse though, but why I like it is because of the way it conveys an emptiness to me, I guess. 98. False. This is a G-side with Japanese vocals by presumably Noodle. Insert spiel about the amazing instrumentation, insert spiel about how good the part with the vocals is, insert a joke that's hopefully funny but probably isn't based on my track record. 97. Hollywood. Wouldn't be the top 100 if there weren't like 97 songs in between the Now appearances. You also notice my bias towards this album, but I genuinely believe it's filled with genius production. Even if the songs aren't as iconic, nor generally worth the top 10 list, there's just a perfection to them. Starting from this one, the catchy chorus, the bubbly and bouncy instrumental that sounds energetic yet still light is awesome. And even Snoop Dogg gets another one of his better sounding verses, in part due to the unorthodox beat backing him. This album is generally amazing at letting every element of it be fun in an iconic way, as well as the way they just want to continue to develop each track in it, keeping the base ideas but taking them everywhere. Reminder that this is the second worst of this record, and I'm already gushing, huh? 96. Punk. They really said, alright, let's make the most generic punk track and made the best generic punk track ever. It's iconic, it's catchy, and it has incredibly unique vocals, sounding both purposefully badly mixed to generate that feeling of badly produced punk by a teenager band, and different from Damon's typical style. This is also from that era where they explained how the songs happened in universe, so there's like lore of Tootie losing his keys and Murdoch using his anger at the situation for the lyrics. That is damn neat, I wish we got more of that nowadays. Papa Te Quiero from 31 Minutos has the same chorus almost 1-to-1, and I find that very hilarious. Oh, and look, a video about 31 Minutos in my channel if you don't know what that is or if you want to know more. 95. Spitting Out the Demons. The grungiest beat, a dirty bass, the most awesome guitar, some subtle synths, and you've got Spitting Out the Demons. Though, by the sound of it, you're like inviting them in faster. No, seriously, for a song that's mostly a beat with very little lyrics, this is strangely fun and addictive. 94. Skinny Ape. This song going from one of the slowest parts of the album to one of the fastest ones is always a highlight. The fact that the percussion shuts off after a bit and then changes during the fast part make for a song that sounds distinct in a very samey record. Building up the fast part, which is so absolutely fun and playful, definitely pays off in this track. 93. My plushie fell on the microphone. 93. Captain Chicken. Some people would call getting Del and De La Soul both back for the same record desperate, but I can't complain. We've got Captain Chicken. I hope this isn't based on that one good episode of that horrible Good Times reboot Netflix did. I do like the verses and the little guitar layer close to the background, but nothing about this song tops the fact that it doesn't suffer from the weird production issues I've mentioned about this record. 92. 5 Whales in a Dream. Another song from Humans named like it's a track from Plastic Beach. This one boasting vocals that sound out of Phase 1, and generally chill vibes. I'd say it feels overproduced at points, but it's truly one of the best elevator songs I've ever heard, and I say that as a compliment. Mostly. About 92 points compliment. 91. Taxi Back to 80s Reykjavik. This is me likely butchering the name of the Japanese exclusive song Machine track. For a Japanese exclusive, they kinda went in. It's a crazy awesome beat with a balance of inconsistent synth pitch shifting aggressively, which paired with the other elements that are mostly normal, slowly becomes drawn out and pleasant, like the other elements help define it, making it feel like the experience of making a beat. This extends to the inclusion of crazier synths and even a guitar solo. Needless to say, they overdid it considering people in the West won't normally hear this song. 90. Ascension. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. This drum and bass type beat just accompanies Vince's vocals perfectly. I always feel like this song is really short, but it isn't. I like how it manages to sound both commercial, as in the style of Humans, yet also uniquely mixed and created. 89. Humility. The quote-unquote pandemic song. Remember when everyone thought every song ever was about the pandemic for some reason? Even if the song, such as in this case, was made before it, by like a notable margin of at least 2 years? Either way, this now release is likely the most accessible in the package. The focus on typical beachy sounds keeps being executed with such a precise soundful to make it different from similar songs that intend to achieve the same feel is not lost on me. And I think the song being part of a music video did it many favors in getting it to people. That music video kinda saddens me. It feels like it was setting up so many things for this space, like the mentions of him and the whole deal with 2D size, but it never went anywhere beyond the primitive Murdoch chatbot that reacted only to commands and shit. It was disappointing to say the least. Also, that was a leg shift, but it had sass for breakfast. 88. Garbage Palace. This music video is practically a music video and I don't know why they call it a visualizer, literally losing viewers for no reason. Some people say this song sounds unfinished to them, but not to me. In fact, I think Little Sims here has the most fun Gorillaz verse maybe ever, at least top 3. I know I learned this rap in a matter of hours after I heard it for the first time, and that happens very rarely, much less having me remember them after 5 or 6 months of not listening to it. I admit, her accent does help make it more appealing, cause it's a really cool accent. The percussion is about as deep as a black hole, I hope it's not drowning me out! 87. White Light. Post-punk in my Gorillaz? And it's unusual post-punk? I'm here, I'm in that room, I'm in that house like carpet. Seriously, the super compressed bass does wonders in my ears, but that's not all. The little rest in the middle featuring super unedited instruments and undirty sounds is genius and makes the track kinda rewarding to listen to. 86. Dove Dumb. This song was made as part of the soundtrack of MTV Music Generator 2. It's like the PS2 version of Mario Composer, or just a console music creation software if you're not really into comparisons. It's very clearly Phase 1 in just the playful hip-hop sound it's going for, which Phase 2 does a lot less. It is literally just synth hell based on the sounds provided by the program. Who would have guessed that hell is actually pretty rad? This song even includes a really fast rap, multiple tone shifts, and monkey noises as a sample. An underrated Gorillaz gem. 85. Rocket. The Reject False Icons campaign is great, because you can use it to critique how fake celebrities have become and how worshipping them is never a good idea, even if they commercially exist through people who worship them, but you can also use it to dismiss other people's taste in music and express your biased opinion on popular artists. I'm not kidding, I was thinking about using this line while talking about the lowest number of this list, but then I realized it's egocentric to use it that way. Maybe this should be seen more as advice for people, rather than a tool to put the taste of others down. Oh yeah, the song! It's a really good song. It sounds like the thing with having extremely silly lyrics as Space 2 does, which is already a place that has very loose and undefined lyrics that don't often make grammatical sense, but in this case, they have purposely used lyrics like blah 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 to satirize the popularity of music lyrics having relatively obtuse themes. So, points for all that. 84. Kids with Guns. While the chorus can be a little repetitive, the rest of the song avoids those issues, largely because the song comes together nicely, the way the vocals become an instrument rather than the focus, or the incredibly crisp sounding percussion that avoids a predictable rhythm. It's just innovative music making in all of its splendor. 83. Rehash. What could have been a normal rock hip hop beat is taken to 1000 with effortless vocal portions. It's closer to something from Blur than from Gorillaz, but I do hear the distinct details that make self-titled convey the feel it does. It's a little repetitive, but what's there is very good. 82. Little Pink Plastic Bags. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. A howling song to think about life at night. Despite having a pretty drawn out synth to fill out the track, the melodies make up for it, with the first half featuring 2D harmonies and the second half featuring this spacey synth. Even while listening to it as I write, I feel like just stopping and enjoying the song. Ranking stuff means looking for all of its issues, and getting stuck in that mind space for a long time is a little bit tiring. I'ma just enjoy this one for a bit. You go in immediately with the me who is reading this and getting angry that he can't pronounce basic words like Reykjavik. 81. Meadows. This is the best track in the Solar collaboration, focusing more on having elements at different depths to make a distinctly layered tune. It's entirely instrumental and super basic, using very little elements, but using all of those perfectly. 80. Soldier Boy. This here is a rare track, which actually got a release of about 500 pressings. That's just crazy. This is a genuinely awesome song for only 500 pressings. Some people may know this as Snakes and Ladders. You have this stanky guitar riff lining up the track, and this really boppy drum machine dictating the pace, which makes the fast rap and the more melodic vocals both feel more varied than they actually are. 79. Chi-Town. This song is atmosphere first and there a second, but it still manages to have its bit of catchy lyrics among its digitally smooth vibes. 78. Double Bass. Probably the most pointless track in self-titled, but it never stopped it from being the grunge fest we deserve. The keyboards brightening up the piece at times so you never get tired of the heavier elements in the track. It's still a bit repetitive though. 77. Lake Zurich. Using all of its synths like it does, this track's quality is better communicated through prose. The later half of its tune with its subdued chorus and bells make this instrumental track say more than I could verbally express. 76. The Living Sea. The vocal themes in this soundtrack are all beautiful. This one is whimsical and tranquil, and the part at the end that adds strings and choirs to the otherwise straightforward Asian sound is practically otherworldly. 75. The Parish of Space Dust. A waltz with a delightful chord progression. The long intro and outro make it come off as fleeting. Thankfully, the song does not sprout legs and leave. What? A skateboard? 74. Hong Kongaton. Say the name of this song 3 times, it's so fun. Hong Kongaton, Hong Kongaton, Hong Kongaton. This song stands in its spot between reggae, hip-hop, and ghoul. Yeah, I bet that a name for this genre. Maybe zombie rock, graveyard music? Whatever. Still an awesome fusion of genres that's basically unprecedented. Not a big fan of the shloop shlop sounds at the start though. 73. New Genius Brother. Oh brother, this guy rocks! Two of these prevalent vocals with those string instruments form a personality-filled duet. Then the scratches with accordion solos are so insane that just the description of what you're actually listening to is already unbelievable. 72. New Gold. This song is a great example of how the production issues with Carker Island, which I've discussed ad nauseum, can actually work on a song that uses them to its advantage. Both the lyrics and beat are really bouncy, and that's partially because of the unusual 6/4 time signature, which results in the chorus packing an unusually strong punch. I think this is one of 2 songs Gorillaz has done in a non-standard time signature. I'm honestly not keeping track, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is their first track to deviate from 4/4 since 5/4. Or not, I'm a few entries into the future and this is proved untrue. And I swear I didn't do this on purpose, but 71, 5/4. So this song is kinda lying. While the guitar is in 5/4, the drums are in 4/4, and the vocals are shifting to whatever time signature they want. I mean, you probably can't find the specific number, but I'm not that good at music theory. All I know is that the clever usage of time signatures like this makes this track stand out amidst Gorillaz' discography. The ladies going adds so much personality to this track, which is already filled with personality because of the strange lyrics. Shit turned your what on? 70, Detroit. I said become human about this song 6 years ago, and now I'm old. All that with my dreams in shambles. Such is life. In an act of defiance to my emotions, this song is actually pretty cheery, with defined melodies and a synth that's part of a percussion. It's a song that may perfectly fit with the vibes of a sunny afternoon. 69! Demon Days. 69, lol, damn it, I'm still 3 years old. There's an ethereal nature to this song. It feels a lot more tender compared to the rest of Demon Days due to what it represents within the album, something of an awakening from a scary situation. It's amazing, a fusion of reggae and gospel to once again wander our ears. So why didn't I put this higher? Just because it's not connected to Don't Get Lost in Heaven. Despite them both both being obviously the same song, I think they didn't want to have a 6-minute track, but this absolutely should have been. It would have given both songs an air of scale that they don't get otherwise, and I'm the guy who typically complains about songs being too long rather than too short. 68. Aspen Forest. This song is very reminiscent of retro video game music, but it still uses other elements that sound more crisp and modern to create a unique sound. I like just about every sound they snuck into here. 67. Cloud of Unknowing. The first listen of this one makes you think, oh, this is good. But the second listen is where everything feels more cohesive, particularly towards the end. And then Google Docs didn't save my paragraph praising the delivery of everything and how the orchestral bits that come in at the end are super duper alluring, so now you get a TLDR version. 66. Aries. I feel like the song is amazing, but I'm not the biggest fan of Tootie's vocals. They don't quite fit here. Beyond that, the hypnagogic guitar is dope, and I like the chorus part a lot. When you said don't turn me off cause then I'm silent, I felt that. 65. Ticker Tape. Even for sad music, this is pretty non-standard. It feels intimate in its simplicities, and I love how it uses whistles to outline its instruments, but this song would just be another track if it wasn't for Carly Simon's verse being so personal and pleasant. The start of his verse is one of the best parts of the entirety of Humans for me, but it's just one outstanding part in an otherwise less interesting song. Not that all of those other parts don't have good stuff about them, of course, hence why it's higher than a bunch of other songs. 64. Fireflies. So this song is kinda similar to the last entry, and just beats it primarily on the impeccable production of the Now Now. Wait, is this song in 6/4 for 2 measures and then 4/4 for 1? I gotta go change that thing I said like 4 minutes ago. Give me a second. Alright, so this track's time signature is part of the reason why I like it so much, but the instrumentation and the perfection of Tootie's lyrics also play a part. 63. Submission. Kille's voice work carries this song. Though the beat is great, she clearly overshines every other element, particularly whatever Danny Brown is doing in his part. He's just screaming his part with no delivery at all, and it does not fit the rest. I'm very glad it's brief. 62. Rock the House. This song is extremely fun. I find the infomercial type beat paired with Dell's voice to hit the spot, and I mean, generally Dell sounds cooler to me when you pair him with sillier music, but that's besides the point. I like how self-titled is able to give personality to even an out-of-tune recorder, and make it a natural part of the song. 61. Super Fast Jellyfish. This song's extremely fun too. I find the 90s ad-type beat paired with De La Soul's voice to hit the spot. I like how Plastic Peach is able to give personality to even an out-of-tune trumpet, and make it a natural part of the song. Okay, beyond repetition jokes, I love how the trumpet becomes more out-of-tune as the song goes, almost like the song's topic, microwave food. It slowly loses its appeal. At first it sounds like a wonderful idea that would save us a lot of time, but the result is just a mediocre meal that has been carefully manufactured through the destruction of the environment. 60. Dirty Harry. This song is This song's best part is how it works well with combining deserty strings with industrial percussions, and then the typical synthy modernities. I also find it very funny how many people think this song is about gun rights when it's really about a specific war that started in 2003 in Iran, hence all the desert theming in the instrumentation and video. Yo, can I see that part where Murdoch hits that kid for no reason again? Let's go! 59. Stop the Dams. Stop the Dams is beyond beautiful, despite doing it in a very conventional way that doesn't make me feel its melancholy at full force, and the mixing not being nearly as good as the songs I've been talking about around here. The emotional strength makes up for it by buckets, maybe even by tanks. 58. M1A1. If you're impatient, you're likely not a fan of this one, but I love the build-up leading to an in-your-face rock portion. The drums go crazy, the vocals go crazy, the guitar goes crazy, and it even has a solo. It feels extremely cool and represents everything I liked about Gorillaz in Phase 1. 57. Bobby in Phoenix. Here's a song to fight against the Nate just hates country allegations. I did put the other country tracks lower, but that's because I value creativity. And guess what this is doing? Creativity. It's basic, but it's doing everything it can with the elements that make it, particularly the iPod synths, which complement the rest of this perfectly. 56. We Are Happy Landfill. And the award for Gorillaz' most creative beat goes to We Are Happy Landfill. 2D sung vocals being so strained would typically detract from other songs, but here it's got the opposite effect. But yeah, there's harmonicas, flutes, and jittering teeth in the instrumentals. Easily one of Gorillaz' most underrated tracks. Maybe people find it to be too chicken coopy, if those words make any sense to anyone who isn't me. 55. The Pink Phantom. I feel like 6 Lag does not fit almost at all with this track, but I appreciate the attempt to make the sound work well together. Yes, I know it's pronounced black, but I'm a prankster, teehee. Elton John's piano and vocals make up for it a lot. I wish more artists would be portrayed as animated characters in the music videos. Those pianos sound straight up magical in this track. 54. Slow Country. This song's just awesome and I don't really have much to say about it, so I'll just say something funny, spontaneous, something entertaining, and then I'm gonna move on. This song sounds like a great song to take a shit to. There. Enjoy your content. 53. There. I always find this song to be the Cloud Praiser in Demon Days. Like, its sound choices aren't really that unusual or creative, but then I also end up thinking the song was a blast. Besides, the more appealing sound wasn't an excuse to not mix the track to perfection. They even add some ghostly synths to remind you of the identity of the band, even when it's trying to be more commercial. I certify thee bop. 52. Men Research. Or being high as fuck at a club simulator in the form of a song. With all of the echoes and the subtly subdued percussion that still have a presence, the start has a lot of little whoops, and later in the song you get some guitars and extra vocal samples. It's a well executed concept. The percussion is about as deep as a black hole, and I hope it's not drowning me out! 51. 192000. The music video is like Radical Highway from Shadow the Hedgehog. In a break from much of the topics of the self-titled album, 192000 is a silly song about taking conflict easily as the world changes. The luxurious footwear polish, a reference to how it's okay to sometimes indulge in the trendy thing. Perhaps that's the broader idea behind this track. Knowing the unusual sound of Gorillaz, it's possible this was included as an attempt to enjoy creating a song that could be considered a trendy thing. Kinda love 2D's backing before the chorus, where he was all like la 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 la. 50. Trance. And we go from that to a song that is literally just about jerking off. Trance is the most cheerful track in the Now as well, going for a heavy sound with too many low elements in the bass and stuff to make it sound more digital. I love the part at the end where the vocals are mixed with more echo, and the piano, which you can see on screen during the music video, holds a cheerful motif that gets used later in the album during Sokai. I guess they also use it in Severed Head from Song Machine, but I don't think that's on purpose. 49. California and the Slipping of the Sun. If any song from the fall comes across as absolutely beautiful to me, it's this, and I would comfortably call this the best song in the fall if the upbeat portion at the end was longer than 40 seconds, because it's such an awesome part after such a beautiful song. The way both parts use vocal samples as instrumentation is not lost in me. Genius work for being created on a fucking iPad. 48. Stylo. This song pops, but it's almost solely responsible for the failure of Plastic Beach to do its lick. Messed up, right? Stylo is stylish as hell, it's almost in the name. From the beat being relatively elegantly executed, to Duddy and Bobby's lyrics taking charge of the composition the moment they show up, except for the part at the end where the vocals seem to come from a distant radio, which primarily add to the experience. But, and this is a big but, I can't stop hearing Bobby as YouTube personality Jontron. They sound the fucking same, okay? 47. The Sounder. A coolish song with the most catchy chorus that abuses its blocky guitar that sounds absolutely glorious and makes me happy. Probably one of my favorite elements they've ever used, but then again, this is still barely in the top 50. This is also the last song from G-Sides. Did you notice that 2D's chorus here is actually Dell's chorus from Rock the House? I was thinking it sounded familiar and looked up Mix 2 to see if it was based on that, but nope, it's just Rock the House. They managed to make it sound different though. I'm not even sure if the guitar also is fashioned after the trumpet from Rock the House, so... 46. Pac-Man. Production is amazing, the entire song is catchy, Schoolboy Q kills it with a really fun verse, and it's all so good I even originally called it the best track in the album. I mean, I'm sure my opinions from this very video will change by the end of the year, but currently, I don't think this song hits those same heights it used to. I still think it's a banger. 45. Kansas. I like that the lyrics of this song can be applied to all failures, but yeah, it's most likely shallowly romantic. That doesn't stop it from being plenty emotional and extremely well produced. 44. Hong Kong. So they were fine with a 7-minute D-side, but had to split Demon Days in two. I like that I have to complain about something else because this song has very few real issues. I can nitpick, sure, but that just get a bit annoying to watch. This song is heavily acoustic, in the sense that most of its recorded instruments are real, giving it a very human quality. It uses splashes of Asian string instruments for the highlights of the other strings, which brings the whole song together and makes it interesting yet emotional. I prefer other slow songs by Gorillaz, but this one is still an extremely strong contender. 43. Broken. I think this is the song that made me want to listen to Plastic Beach, the first full album I heard from Gorillaz, not to be confused with the first song that got me into Gorillaz in the first place, but this still remains a melancholic, beautiful song. The wind instruments playing extended notes alongside the fast tempo and oscillating synths make this an addictive listen, and it always feels rewarding to reach the post-chorus part with the drum machine going faster. Perfect atmosphere, perfect melancholy. Can we stop it with the sad songs for a bit now? This is 3 in a row and it's ruining my mood. 42. Strange Times. This song sounds strange, like the times are strange, like it would be a strange time to turn it on. The strange portions are mostly achieved with the overtly sequenced keys, which I suppose are a sequencer that has a bunch of echo to make it feel more crystalline, but the actual chorus falls into a more standard sound, even if it does have xylophones or whatever to keep the instrument choices fresh. I also want to shout out that part where the big bass happens and Turi goes, existing or not. Literally chills every time. 41. Severed Head. A house song with a dark tone that is exciting and unusual, at least I think it's house, I'm not sure. Added to the psychedelic rock elements that don't get too much focus, but still exist there. The lyrics are also regarding pretty dark themes, from allusions to decapitation to a focus on exploring depressions born from grief. And they don't really conclude on the ideas, they just let them exist in the air, the answer is for you to find. This whole track is categorically my shit. Ruben Nielsen's delivery on his lyrics is also very pleasing. I love how the end of the song is basically a grim TLDR of what it's trying to say. 40. Revolving Doors. I didn't want this to be the highest song from the fall, since I I feel like it's a little cliche, but there's no way around it. I wouldn't want to lie to you for the sake of being unpredictable. This song just happens to be spectacular, notably through the absolutely addictive guitar melodies. Both of them, because there's 2 layers of it, maybe 3, which is responsible for making the track sound awesome, even if the synths are very subtle to let the guitar take the focus. Tooty's vocals are also great and used creatively. If this is not on your top 100 Gorillaz songs, I literally don't believe you. 39. Hand Clapper. This song was basically a finalized unreleased demo until a few years ago, and it used to only exist in really low quality until the 20th anniversary release of Self-Titled, which is why I expect that later this year we may get the official release of unreleased Phase 2 demos I've uploaded, like Soldier Boy, which will date this video, so that's fun. I don't even know why this song wasn't in Self-Titled. It got replaced by Man Research, which I kinda understand, but I think this was still worthy of release, I think. I mean, I'm saying I like it more here. Sure, you get the playful Phase 1 vocals, but the peak is just the part where he goes, woo! And the guitar solo happens. Just fun. 38. Busted and Blue. I'm talking about the album version, not the one in Arabi. Though I like that one too about the same, the 2D lyrics are so much better for me. Specifically because this track is one of those that has very limited amount of elements. It's not layered, it's not deep, but it always makes me feel introspective in a way no other song really manages to do. Every piece of its simple form fits perfectly into a puzzle, creating the perfect image in the end. The subjective part of me would put it higher, maybe in the top 20, but I like being slightly objective in these rankings, even if they are my opinion. I've only ever fallen asleep to one Gorillaz song, and it's this, the most awesome song to hear during a rainy night. Thankfully, not all nights are rainy, which lets the sun happen, which makes the rainy nights feel special when they happen if you like them. Okay, why am I talking about the rain here? I'm discussing a virtual band about a drug addict, an egomaniac, a guy who lost his personality when he stopped being possessed, and some Japanese girl they ordered from Temu. 37. Heavily Peach Banquet. This is the peak of traditional sounding songs in the Monkey album. The instrumentation, however, uses few of the typical Asian elements you would see in other tracks, this one using a simulation of them through digital instruments instead. That's already great and all, but then you get an incredible vocal performance, then a purely instrumental portion with winds and strings. It's obvious the title wasn't lying, this is heavenly. 36. Latin Simon or ¿Qué pasa contigo? I'm putting these next to each other because I like elements from both equally. They are the same entry, but I want to talk a bit about both versions. Personally, the English version tops. It feels like the English lyrics are a perfect fit for the music, complementing it. I think that I don't think the Spanish version does as well. However, the tone the Spanish lyrics are going for is much more unique. It's reminiscent of 80s era Cuban performances, and describing depression from the perspective of an outsider is a great decision to effortlessly make the lyrics more interesting. 35 and 34. Andromeda plus the Dram Special. I put these songs on separate entries because they feel like two halves of the same song, but their structure is just completely different somehow. I found mixes between both versions to be my favorite way of hearing these two tracks. The drum version starts with a solo that leads into the song, and it also lets instrumentals take the melody during the verses rather than having to redo it. The most notable part is just how awesome the chorus of the drum version is, which paired with the developed instrumental solos and the guitar solo at the end, make it the version I prefer the most. That's not to say the original doesn't have its own things, the sound font is notably the same, but this one uses a bunch of bass that you can barely hear without headphones, and the chorus is the instrumental portion instead. It's literally the same song, but from different universes, and I like both versions about the same for different reasons. One of them is laziness, but pretend it isn't. 33. Fire coming out of the monkey's head. Man, this video is really good. I'm just gonna narrate a song instead of rapping anything so people can hear it better. I think that was the thought process Dennis was going on here, and it mega pays off. It makes the song stand out, but it also gives the story a more serious tone, resulting in just straight up chills every time. It's a perfectly fitting idea that could have gone horribly, but of course this is Demon Days, it went fucking amazing. 32. Don Comatic, not technically a Plastic Beach song, but the overlay is cool so I'm using it. This song is kinda half-ass production-wise, but Daily Stalin makes this one of the most singable songs by Gorillaz. I find myself singing it every time, even before starting recording this audio, and that solely earns it a high spot. Thinking about his talent, he's dead! Laugh at him! Disclaimer that Dali's still alive, and if he dies in the future, please do not use this clip to make me look like an asshole. 31. The Lost Chord. My favorite part about this music video is how people assume, as always, that it for some reason has to do with some crazy headcanons about Tootie and Murdoch's relationship. And yet this is blatantly a metaphor/explanation for their intent when it comes to Gorillaz having a storyline. This is actually a way to say they want to disregard everything that happened pre-Phase 4 by literally blowing it up. I imagine that Damon and Jamie are no longer interested in an actual plot based on what we've seen in the last few phases. Also the fact that they got that show cancelled, which they probably put all their plot into that and, you know, that didn't go anywhere. Gorillaz didn't even give a proper music video to talk about Murdoch's relationship with Moonflower. Seriously, why does he give a shit? She does not deserve these looks. Okay, I was talking about the songs, not the videos. I like how this song fuses Phase 3 and Phase 6 elements. While having the more modern sound of Song Machine, it uses a lot of music structures you could expect from 3. Regardless, my favorite elements are the basics elements. Notably the fact that no element in the music is lost in the mix. Everything gets a bit of time to shine even if briefly, which results in really clear mixes. 30. Cracker Island. I hate that for a moment. I got hyped for Cracker Island.
I know I messed it up, but I said Crapper Island and I'm laughing my ass off at that. I hate that for a moment I got hyped at Cracker Island as a result of this song being so good. It's kind of a shame this is a standout on an otherwise mid-album. Slickness is the name of the game here. The forever cut between the lines carry the song amazingly, and yet my favorite part is still the Thundercat solo. Between the slide guitars, his vocals, and the energy within the beat, it's just amazing. No, but seriously, imagine we got a music video for Baby Queen with Murdoch going on a date with Moonflower as she rots. By far the biggest music video chance they missed in the history of the band. 29. Do ya think? We're not here to talk about the 4-minute version. That version's fine, but the 13-minute version is unmatched, except by like almost 30 songs, but you get what I mean. I adore that this was made for a Converse commercial, and then they deliver 7 minutes of Android 3000 going mental as the song gets more distorted and loud, which could have easily been about nothing, but it's actually a whole commentary on imposter syndrome. I'm not big enough to relate. I actually have the opposite of imposter syndrome, where I'm pissed that no one appreciates my talents. That 4-hour video took 3 years! So yeah, Andre is going even harder than usual here. Not just the catchy parts, but his rap has like 17 flows, really creative lyrics, probably the best straight verse in Gorillaz' discography. He's the shit. Sometimes he's shit, but he's gonna let you know regardless. This is not just a song or a sponsorship. This is an experience. It lets you experience what it feels to work 4 years on a project that gets almost no fucking recognition, and then you do like a video in 2 weeks and it's like, oh cool, everyone like that, I guess I'll just stop being creative and just lodge content out. Because that's not what it feels like sometimes, you know? Sometimes seeing people on the internet get away with doing nothing pisses me off. Like, I try very hard to delete Snowbird, and all I can do is just blame myself about it, but what if it isn't me? Maybe it's you that doesn't deserve me. And now I get a job I've been wanting to do this shit for 12 fucking years. Sick of fucking tired of that. Oh, the song is just finished now, so I guess I'ma stop writing this rant now. 28. Some Kind of Nature. A playful song with cheery vocals and melodies, but it doesn't shy away from getting on a vibey groove, resulting in a gratifying result. Plastic Beach is already filled of both of those tones, so a track that leans into that fully within the same song is not just fitting, but also iconic. The song represents Plastic Beach better than the song Plastic Beach does, which is further ahead, so let's get going. 27. Tomorrow Comes Today. It all started with this one, a song that may begin with a standard stock beat you could expect from any hip-hop inspired song in the 90s, until different elements appear, like the harmonicas, to these very toned-down lyrics, and the whispers in the background which you probably never noticed and are about to pause the video to fact-check if you're following the playlist. And that's all I have to say. The songs start speaking for themselves at this point, and then they talk to me, and they tell me to do bad things, like writing a rant for as long as the song with the rant lasts, or go steal food from my neighbors to the left because they have no electric fence? 26. Silent Running. I cannot overstate how much I hate that Phase 7 only got 2 videos, and also the worst Gorillaz record to date. I blame Greg Kurstin over this, since he produced every song except, and props for this, Tormenta. You know, the song that is in last place, which I said, and I quote, "It sounds like they are the feature?" Either way, Silent Running was apparently one of the first songs created for the record, along with New Gold and Cracker Island, which also just happened to be the top 3 songs from the album in this list. That is to say, the production bits I disliked for much of the album turned out to be for the benefit of these 3, most notably in Silent Running. Here, those airy and loud basses and percussions that drown out the other songs actually work in tandem with the vocals, while implying some sort of hidden beauty underneath the face value aspects through the piano and 2D choirs in the background. That all culminates in the part after the chorus, with the epic sounding choirs and whistles that actually, for once, overtake the percussion and the bass. They won the fight, and later, they even got to be used as layers along with the other elements. This is literally the peak of Cracker Island. Having all the best parts of the record in like 3 or 4 songs makes it really easy to rank them, more so especially when one of those is particularly special, such is this case, which makes this one a clear winner. Right Me wants you to say goodbye to this UI because he has no idea what he's doing for it, but this was the first UI I made, so I know exactly what we're doing for it now. 25. To Binge. This song reminds me of something stupid. The song from Better Call Saul. Every part of the composition here has something special about it, the tropical percussions being the least interesting element, and then you've got the lyrical portions, with Yukimi sounding ethereal and 2D sounding more strained, yet more human, letting him take the chorus and make of it something special. But then the instrumentation, oh man, the instrumentation, just absolutely incredible, with tons of lovely accents that tie everything together through their melodies. Also, this song was used in the pilot for Gravity Falls. That's a cool fun fact that made me go, yo! 24. Plastic Beach. Gorillaz isn't much for the most epic psychedelic intros in music. One day they woke up and started Plastic Beach, the song, with nothing less than an epic psychedelic intro. That's when I knew this album was goated. The rising and falling notes have a cinematic feel to them, reminiscent of a weird and unusual world. I'm still wondering how they made the chorus sound so unusually springy considering the tone and the standardness of the music. Something about the instruments and vocal delivery is just superb about this. 23. Magic City. One day, I didn't like Magic City that much. Then some other day, way off in the future, I started singing this song in the shower. I didn't even remember it was a Gorillaz track. And then, when I remembered,
I decided to listen to the Now Now again. One day I didn't like the Now Now, then some other day I re-listened to it because of this song, and it's now my third or second favorite Gorillaz record. Much of the Now Now was described as melancholic by people, a sad dig at the beach, but I really don't get that feeling beyond humility, which probably due to its music video influenced the perception of this album towards that direction. I like describing it as hypnagogic, something between awake and asleep. This tune is a hypnagogic masterpiece, from the abstract lyrics explaining billboards on the moon or magic cities that can be understood as being in an unfamiliar place, to the echoey lyrics and subtle melodic elements that project an air of relaxation, without being necessarily slow or relaxing. After the first chorus, there's a silent portion that leads to a louder drop that retains that feel while speeding the rhythm of the rare keyboards peppered throughout the track. It's genuinely genius production without even having to rely on uncommon soundscapes akin to the ones in Plastic Beach or Demon Days. There's a simple beauty to this record, and that's why I can easily tell you exactly what about each song from it is spectacularly made, which is almost everything, so the entries end up being really long. 22. Sorcerers. For example, Sorcerers has a racing nature. Almost every element of the track rises in scale, the exception being the vocals telling you to cool down. The outcome becomes this really cool effect where the lyrics sound less excited than they should be. I also want to direct you to the recorder-like synth in the background, which is playing some extremely unusual progression and is super low pitched. It's easiest to hear during the fade out for me, but it accompanies the bass that made it sound so much more melodic than it is, leading to the sorta bubbly feel of this track, despite still being kinda toned down. 21. Opium. I think still the intro of this song is too long-winded. Everything else about it though is just triumphant. It exists mainly through the percussion elements, which are much of the song, but result in a feeling of flow. The African inspiration of the music is evident and still just an element and not the focus, helped a lot by the lyrics being very spontaneous or hopeful. It's practically inviting you to dance. By this I mean that the flow of is really cool. Another benefit, there's a piano solo at the end. I'm a sucker for piano solos, as I said already. Oh, hooray! 6 AM! 20. November has come. If you told me that one of the best songs by Gorillaz would be MF Doom and Gorillaz, I would have instantly believed you. I wouldn't even need to hear it, so you don't either. Bye. Kidding. I have to at least mention the chorus. It's catchy as fuck. I also want to clap specifically to Doom. I've heard zero bad songs from this guy. Then again, he died the day I started getting into his discography, so I stopped and I'm not too familiar. I should probably give it another go now. This song is simply legendary. 19. Saturn's Bars. In 2017, I heard Saturn's Bars as my first experience with this band. I fucking hated it. I thought it was weird, Moro going tabaf didn't inspire me, and I still think to this day that the design of this pizza is disgustingly bad. Also, I find myself unable to pronounce pizza correctly lately, so I don't know what's wrong with me. So according to my doctor, this condition's mortal? Well, I guess it's now my 19th favorite song in their entire extended discography. I've got into Gorillaz later when someone online told me it had lore, and by the time I got to Humans, my music taste had highly improved. The song proceeded to slowly grow on me, and here we are. This one is spooky, mystical, and yet still has an air of intrigue. Basically, what any good horror movie should be. Popgun's lyrics are in the perfect tone, transmitting a lot of charisma, even if his words can be a bit typical for lyrics. Interturning that very harsh and defined voice with Damon's compressed and whispery lyrics is a recipe for the opposite of disaster. Hold on, let me look it up. Blessing? This is the best English has to offer for me? Unrelated, but the album art for Humans is a mega stinker as I said earlier, just this frame from the video is already much cooler. 18. Orchestral intro / Pirates Progress. You may know this because it's the orchestral intro of Plastic Beach, but the full track is actually 4 minutes and absolutely incredible. It's so grandiose and spectacular, with many inspirations from orchestral film soundtracks throughout. This is a piece that transports you straight to another world. 17. Carnival. It's not the best in its original version, but the deluxe album includes a version with a new verse which comes on after the first verses. Those display creepy atmosphere that plays off well with the track, while the new verse has 2D sounding less spooky, while snippets of the earlier verses fill the tune with their whispers. It's also really cool, I don't know why. I get the feeling of coolness from it. Probably something to do with the stop-and-go nature, the clean vocals, and the lively sequencer. 16. 1%. More like 0.0001%. Music isn't regularly this good. This one feels like floating in space. It's very soft and soothing, using a ton of subtle sounds from guitars and synths to create one of the best Gorillaz soundscapes ever. The background is filled with these strange keys falling into a satisfying progression that comes off as inspiring, unusual considering their position on a song that portrays such stasis. It feels like time stops while you're listening to it. I don't know, everyone's gonna have different opinions on the slow songs, but this one calms me down without putting me to bed. 15. Let Me Out. They absolutely fucking cooked with this one. It's not just fire, they actually created the sun in song form. I also get the feeling of true cohesion from this one, the cosmic synths from Gorillaz, the hip-hop beats to fulfill Push T's needs, and then the gospel elements for Mavis's portions, not segmenting them, but putting them together, intertwining and fusing into an absolutely epic genre fusion. If this song doesn't pump you up, I don't think we can get along, because I'm always feeling inspired by this. I absolutely love that the title of the song, which is completely desperate in nature, is actually just a whisper in the context of the music. Be that much of the lyrics are a form of protest, it really communicates that feeling of wanting to escape a situation, but being unable to because you feel a moral duty to stand and fight against that which is scaring you. After all, if you don't fight for what you stand for, who else will? 14. Monkey B. This song is a pretty long build-up that uses chopped up lyrics as an instrument, has a segment that is off-key to reference the antagonist, and calls back to other compositions within the soundtrack. There's a part with the synth that gets silent after the Wukong character says something, and it slowly gets its volume back until his next line. It really portrays an argument through music. This leads to a portion of standard lyrics over the chaotic instrumentation, and then it happens. The song fucking delivers on that build-up with a superhero anime action theme that uses all of those elements established throughout the song in a blast of genius, where they all make sense now. I didn't even know this song existed before starting work on this video, and now it's part of my subjective top 10. 13. Soundcheck Gravity. Gravity is a tender piece, carried mostly to Damon's vocals, which are absolutely amazing, setting up and playing off the amazing instrumentation full of hip scratches and hoppy beats. It manages to be a song that sounds dark and light at the same time, almost taking turns to create a contrasting piece, which just so happens to be my favorite from the self-titled. There's a lot to be said about how this song moves between dark, tenebrous beats and light synths and guitars. The lyrics are also in falsetto for the chorus and model for the verse, which achieves the same contrast basically. The bass is relatively subtle but amazing, and so on and so forth. TLDR, I like it when it goes 12. Feel Good Inc. Yeah, Gorillaz' breakout hit is everything it's chalked up to be. The addictive bass, the layered elements such as guitars and synths combining electronic music and hip-hop, the absolutely outstanding precision from the deep sound to the light sound of the acoustic guitars and wind chimes, and featured artists doing stuff they'd never do on their own record, such as laughing maniacally for 10 seconds. All of that accompanying an absolutely bonkers music video, probably one of Gorillaz' best, and lyrical themes that accompany the musical theme of the manufactured music versus real artist expression. Songs like Feel Good Inc. don't happen every day, and the praises for this song have been sung plenty, so while I probably could make a 10-minute video about only this track, I think someone else has already done that, and probably better than I could. 11. Pirate Jet. Pirate Jet, or Iron Chef, or Hydrogen, or I Am a Cat, or Higher Jeff, or whatever this song's called, is here exclusively due to it being Gorillaz' best album closer. It leaps on an ominous note with this awesomely awesome chord progression, posing more questions than answers, but being concise. It's that progression that made it land so high for me. The lyrics pretend that everything's fine, as if the entire message of the album is easily disregarded, a sad reality when it comes to human consumerism and our disregard for the environment. This song then fades out, trailing off on some silent notes. The issue continues to this day. 10. So Kai. The closer from the Now Now is also its last appearance on this list, and number 10 in my top 10. This song is a cacophony of relaxing sounds building off each other, and also a corrupted discordant sound reminiscent of a time long gone. The usage of noise and compression on this track being louder than usual makes it sound distant, like a fading memory that as the song progresses, becomes a single piano solo that strikingly is similar to one you heard earlier in the album, which also happens to be one of the most instantly evident elements of the entire record, leaving only a corrupted melody of what once was. Empty and alone. Notice how the guitar becomes harder to listen to and the lyrics become more echoey with this song. The hints of synths go more off-key in the distance, which added to the small vocal samples during the second half, creates a soundscape unlike no other. I fucking love this track. It's easily the favorite of many people who listen to the Now Now due to how important it sounds, but truly, trust me, the Now Now is a spectacularly created record, and I hope that this video inspires you to give it another listen with an open mind. It truly is one of the most spectacularly produced records in the Gorillaz discography, and it's such a shame that people tend to hate it because it's not as upbeat or whatever. Also, this visualizer is super cool, don't leave me! This is your brain. This is your brain on Smashed Tomatoes. Any questions? 9. Sleeping Powder. This is practically an afterthought in Humans, but for some reason it's also the best track in it. Maybe that feeling of being an afterthought let it be no more than it had to. The limited amount of samples it works with had to be used to the max, and it's just a song that flows very naturally on the talent on display. Of course, this song isn't being discussed unless we talk about how good the first verse hits. The way it just hits you is nothing short of magic, and the difference between the tone of both parts of the song makes both feel instantly iconic. The song is also awesome at using its noise to its favor, but not regular noise like the last track I talked about. This one instead achieves the noise through the absolutely crunchy bass synths, another amazing element in this composition. It all was made to talk about drugs, so it makes sense for this to not make too much sense, if you catch my drift. Would you all reckon 2D to be the type to wear his gauge in proudly, or do you think he would get it removed? And if you don't get the joke, you cannot listen to this song again. 8. All Alone. I am always surprised by All Alone. Not only is this one of Gorillaz' most addictive and unusual beats that could have lined up the entire track with no problems whatsoever, but they also found ways to take it places. The multiple synths playing the main melody respond to the rap, shifting with it. But if that wasn't enough, the second half of this song transitions to a bridge using more
natural instruments, including distant guitars, and of course, Martina Topley-Birds' lyrics, which brighten up the mood further. I don't think it's a secret that this song is entirely about finding the good in the bad. Loneliness, for example, is a hell of a feeling, but loneliness is also a potential conduit for self-expression. Alone time can be used positively even if loneliness itself sucks. Similarly, Roots' verse goes on about effort making one grow tired, but has the potential of ultimately leading to great rewards, such as an overflowing wealth that you can spread to others, and Mariana's verse also places night and day as independent of hope. It all depends kind of on your perspective. Of course, this wouldn't be a top 10 song if the music didn't complement those ideas. There's beauty and energy in the second half of the song, contrasting with the repetition and stankiness of the first half, but retaining elements in both of those parts recontextualizes that stankiness as part of a more complex composition. 7. Désolé. It is the peak of Song Machine's production. Everything is crisp and separated into defined elements, each with its own time to shine. It literally gives you enough time to notice all of the elements if you're looking for them, the only slightly subtle one being like the sort of whale call in the background. And that's about it. Everything else is part of the meal, and you can absolutely taste it. Goes without saying that the performances are extraordinary and all that jazz, but really what makes me like this song so much is just how expertly produced it is. It's the kind of song where you can sing all of the elements at the same time and miss little. I'm not quite sure what you call this. Clean? You know, we should invent a whole arc about Tootie and Murdoch making out because Murdoch is a little sad in this video. You gotta think about the lore. They're clearly having a lover's spat and Murdoch has not been seen waking up in a cold sweat over potential homosexuality. 6. Oh Green World. This is one of the most unusual tracks by the band. It's extremely unusual, despite using pretty straightforward elements when you think about it. Guitars and drums like any other rock trip-hop fusion. Maybe you can make an argument about the screams and compression being weird, but it's nothing compared to the wonders we've seen Gorillaz get away with. This is a song that's unusual because of its uneven composition. It generally has very few elements that land on a clear beat pattern consistently, making it feel like each element hates but has to coexist with the other elements. The only melody is the vocals, so what is this song? It's difficult to describe the parts that make it unusual due to just how complex it is to understand, let alone play. There's few words that can communicate how good this song is, but if I had to venture a guess, contradiction is a good one. Even the title is against the song. It's called Oh Green World when the song sounds about as apocalyptic as it gets, even in this record. 5. El Mañana. When I first heard this song, I lost my mind. I admit, this song's lyrics are pretty incoherent, as much of the lyrics of Demon Days tend to be, and yet putting the focus on the sound of words over their meaning produces the third most beautiful song ever put out by Gorillaz. This song is the perfect combination between electronica, pop, and orchestra, a light guitar and standard bass forming the foundation, sprinkled with bits of electronica to surround it and implement the Gorillaz sound, topped up by the orchestral elements that make it truly beautiful. One of the elements I enjoy the most about it is just how upbeat the percussion is. It's a very dense percussive portion, which results in the other instruments having to keep pace, leading to a slow song that is actually fast. You can feel the pain in the composition, yet there is a beauty to it, like a hope that the next experience will eventually result in something better. Another example of the music from Demon Days doing its best to deliver mixed messages through the music rather than through the lyrics. The lyrics seem to be more about longing for something that may possibly never come, but they are definitely a backseat to the instrumentation. They are meant to be understood as an instrument, so analyzing them is kind of a moot point. They have meaning for sure. You can hear how at the end the lyrics go, maybe in time you'll be mine, and that's repeated several times, almost in desperation, but their intent is to be another beautiful part of this sorrowful tune rather than anything concise. 4. On Melancholy Hill. This song keeps playing in public places and I'm like, don't cry in public, idiot! Every fucking time. So far I'm winning, but you never know when Melancholy Hill will attack next. There is a heartbeat to this track, particularly in how the backing bass, beat, and synths are all oscillating up and down. The soft piano and lyrics join, setting up the real meat, which would be the synths melodically introduced into the music. All of these elements are simple melodies taking turns at being the focus. This is a bunch of subtle choirs that harmonize the music into the unreal result of the track. Most music that sounds like something tends to sound like it because we associate it with the music video, video game level, or album art. But I think this actually manages to sound like water through the way it represents its instruments, giving them a lot of reverb and making them sound somewhat dispersed, as if traveling under the water. I can't really say that about most other songs even in the top 10. Sleeping Powder doesn't sound like drugs or dreams, same way El Mañana doesn't sound like a flying windmill island being shot down. 3. Rhinestone Eyes. Something about Rhinestone Eyes always gets me super excited and pumped up for no reason. The fucking synth leading the instrumental is so fucking good. The vocals sound completely relaxed. The stanky ass guitar from the start is now leaving it up at the bottom of the mix, and I'm just here wondering how the fuck did they do it once again. When she says that's electric trick, she's speaking in facts. This song is full of electric sounds, and they are all playing around each other effortlessly. One thing I like about Plastic Beach over Demon Days is that the lyrics make sense for starters. I read Rhinestone Ice's vocals as a sort of self-critique of what Plastic Beach is as an album.
It lists off several of the issues the album discusses at the start, and then it makes fun of itself for being able to only communicate the message, knowing that its recipient won't be the people who need to receive the advice with lines such as, "I prayed on the immovable yet cling to the atoms of rock." This song and the emotions of the author won't change the fact that the mistreatment of the planet will occur, yet they can't still let go of the issue because we've seen their occasional effectiveness, although very little. Then the third verse follows it, accepting the impossibility of the task, yet deciding that it's worth trying again. It's a very hopeless song meant to be heard more than to be answered. Oh yeah, and then it's accompanied by the best music video Gorillaz would have if it was actually made. I'll take the second best thing, which is a fan spending 6 years of their lives working on a recreation, which may stick to the storyboard too well down to the ugly drawings from it, but it's still a huge achievement. I adore having a version of the music video in its complete state. Again, always makes me excited. 2. Every Planet We Reach Is Dead. When it comes to sound font, Every Planet We Reach Is Dead is my favorite Gorillaz song. The sounds it's working with are absolutely insane. Choirs, electric guitars, violins, off-key violins, trumpets, 3 synthesizers, 2 pianos, drum kits, classic drum machines. And then they made it sound Asian and African American despite having like 2 elements typical to the music of each culture. It's straight up wonderful, and once again has a piano solo, which hell fucking yes. I must admit though, the reasons why I like this one aren't as deep as the other tracks in the top 5. The lyrics are not even half of the song and talk about loneliness, and the bluesy jazzy elements of the track don't really say anything particularly deep. But that's precisely why I like it, I think. Despite having little to overanalyze about it, you can hear a depth in the execution. The second half is loud and chaotic, which comes across, awesomely, as an explosion of sound. A sonic boom, if you will. Perfect for opening Pulse by Force. And of course, number 1, Empire Ants. I don't think it's a surprise for most people to see what number 1 is. This is not like an unpopular opinion. In fact, I'm sure this is the most popular opinion, but it's completely fair. Empire Ants is practically a perfect song. And I do mean that. It doesn't have a single extra element or a single lacking one. The entire tone of the piece, both halves, is fantastic and the technical production is outstanding. The first half has vocals by 2D, whose voice fits perfectly with the introspective calming feel of this portion. The acoustic guitar strumming to give an analog feel to the otherwise techno ballad is a fitting detail, more so next to the electric guitars that are being used so much more sparingly as splashes of sound to connect the phrases. The usage of keyboards filled with echo giving the song a sleepy quality. Most of all, I want to direct you all the way back to spot 215 in this list, a song I bashed as not being Gorillaz at all, and I want to note its percussion. This is the reggaeton percussion. Basically every popular song from Latin America for the past 10 years uses it, which is why I call it tiring, and yet Empire Ants is using it. The first half of Empire Ants is practically the best reggaeton song ever made, because it breaks the rules of it completely. It generally uses a new sound on one of the most tired genres of the modern era. Even back when it released, the rhythm wasn't as popular, and they still decided to innovate around it completely. Yes, cool, so that's only the first half of the song. About 2 minutes into the track, it transitions into a part that uses several elongated synths to produce a spacey feel as a simple electric keyboard takes the stage. As the percussion comes in and the music expands, they start playing a buoyant bass. This transition is a flawless introduction to the second half, featuring Little Dragon once again. The vocals sound isolated and kind, there's a sorrow in their delivery that's unmatched by anything short on El Mañana, and together with the echoey synths, make for an incredible soundscape that surrounds you in the feeling of a night by the beach. An immense success for an ocean-themed album. The song fades out to a whole different synth that lasts just the right amount of time to be an iconic part of the song, and then it ends. This song is about the stress of being a worker, doing a job, being an ant for an empire. The way individuality has been weaponized for the benefit of the companies, whether it's through your memories or dreams, which exist solely to inspire you to work a machine. I hope you appreciate me using the lyrics as poetry rather than just quoting them and explaining them. I can do that in regards to my favorite line in the song, which is in the first half. It reads, "The falling of the whole empire is here to hold you." There's a lot of depth to this line, because while it may be interpretable as if 2D is saying that you can take respite from the stress of work by the knowledge that the company will probably fail and let you go, you would just be out of a job if that were to happen. I think this line refers to the whole empire as the planet and the way our relaxation from stress is achieved through the products of that empire. A cold beer, a film, a video game, all things created by little ants working machines that are destroying the planet. It's essentially saying that we take comfort and pleasure indirectly from the destruction of a planet, and go on later to perpetuate the cycle. That's why this song is so weirdly melancholic. It doesn't blame you for the destruction of the planet or tell you to stop being mean to the planet and become an activist about consumerism. Instead, it simply acknowledges that the destruction of the environment is inevitable. That's what Plastic Beach is about in its entirety. Not a call to action, but simply an expression of grief for the world we live in. That's why this song is my favorite in the album and of course the whole discography. It communicates that message to perfection in 4 minutes and 53 seconds, which makes me realize this song is way longer than I remember it every time, wow. And that's 218 songs reviewed.
It was pretty breezy because I like this band, and they do truly make consistently great music. Like, I was confused at my own rankings while making this list even though I ranked them 2 days before, and I genuinely think anything above 200 is already an awesome song. The real award goes to you, viewer, for watching this through. Thank you very much. You should consider checking out my other videos if you haven't. I put a lot of work into those, and having people experience them is much appreciated. Hey, if I had $1 for every time my favorite song by an artist was part of a nautical themed album made by a band who is known for blurring the lines of genre, where both bands happen to be one of my favorite bands who made 2 of my top 5 best albums ever, I'd have $2, which isn't a lot, but it's really weird that it happened twice.